Yeah. All right, folks. Welcome to the Grown Up 90 podcast, where we're going to talk about 2020. I'm Soul Criminal. Over there is John Regal.
Oh, man, good to be back.
No video on this one because John forgot that he's a teacher, and the last thing he needs is that obvious proof that of what we're going to talk about today.
So this isn't him.
Well, it's your fault for going by your two names, so they know who you are.
This is
the same places.
This is the Kool-Aid drinker. That's my name tonight.
Call me the Kool-Aid Smile.
Today's episode is featuring the Kool-Aid sipper.
All right, so we haven't been on here since the coronavirus thing, or the unspoken. Should we call it the unspoken? And but we figured with all the stuff that's going on,
those pandemics that we do not speak about.
Yes,
it's like the village.
So we figured, since with all the stupid shit going on in the country at the moment, we just might as well throw our commentary on there. So I think I decided that the title of this podcast will be something along the lines of "How to Lose Friends in 15 Minutes or Less." It's essentially what it's going to come down to, because this seems to be one of whatever's going on now is nothing new. It's just more vocal. But what's going on now seems to separate people from other people, which is very the opposite of what the point of it is, which is quite astonishing when you really think about it. But a lot of people can get offended so easily at least on one side versus the other. This is one of those situations where it's like, if you don't believe what I think, what I believe, then we can't be friends, and it's stupid. Unfortunately, I don't have friends like that. I'm sure I might, but in all reality, I don't think I do, because I do have nice, civilized, normal conversations with people who don't agree with me politically. Then I got my buddy over here, my co-host, who pretty much who's afraid to say certain things, and establishes his political opinions based off of sports talk radio. So that's an interesting way to go. And the thing is, I'm not even lying. I'm not even, like, I brought up to him something that happened in the first 2 weeks of the riots, and he was like, dude, I didn't hear it on the radio. I'm like, you listen to sports talk radio. Like,
what was the example?
It was the people who had died during the riots. And you're like, I didn't hear that on the radio. Well,
I didn't hear EF talk about
that. Yeah. I mean, in between the Red Sox speak and the Celtics, I didn't hear anything about it.
That's
so
it.
yeah,
well,
so
talking about contracts.
So if they didn't talk about it, it didn't happen. It's essentially his mentality behind it. And then if you do bring it up to him, he's like, I don't know. He's just like, I don't know if you're afraid to have an opinion and say the wrong thing. Well, but for somebody who loves offending people,
I'm very now slightly censored on who I offend, but I am apolitical. I like that. I am apolitical.
Okay.
I lean towards the Republican and conservative values, but I do have progressive aspects with conservative values. Make sense? Yeah. I love technology, but let's still keep it the same. You dig?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
would love to run, but to get that funding to push it would be really tough.
Oh my God, John! You don't you literally you don't even know what's going on in the world. So how would you run?
To all the leaders of the world,
but you don't even know what's going on. So you can't really talk to them if you don't know what's going on.
That's why you go in there blind. You see, everyone's held at an equal level. Okay.
But that doesn't erase what's going on in real time. So you couldn't really do that. In real time
right now, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, but, in real time right now.
You just found out about Chaz literally 2 hours ago, and now you think you're like you have a pro.
Chaz?
It's like a week old, dude.
Yeah, I found out about Seattle maybe a day and a half ago, and I never looked into it. And I thought it was just a regular. I thought it was getting to be a violent protest. I didn't know it's a whole city. Now it's
not a whole city. It's 6 city blocks.
Yeah, so it's a good chunk, and it's its own. That's like Griffinville.
Yes, it's a village.
You know Griffinville from fucking Family Guy?
Yes.
Where he sovereigned his own house property?
Yeah.
And I just don't understand. And you broke it down that how do they still have their power? And then if they are on a grid, they can't shut it off. And I do believe, I think their whole electric system on the West Coast, especially Seattle, is more advanced than ours. They're like based off an Asian. Like, I think they had 5G before us.
Oh my God, John! This has nothing to do with 5G. This has nothing to do with anything.
I'm talking
Stop talking about
technology. So, like,
oh my God!
You know what I mean?
Maybe they're all androids then. Maybe that's why they're doing it. They could be all robots.
Yeah. Or androids are running.
Yeah, because the lady in a video sitting in a coffee shop told you so. Cut the crap.
Yo, CHAZ stands for Cybernetic Human Android Zombies.
There you go. Such a knucklehead. But anyway, folks, I think everybody pretty much knows what's going on in this wonderful world we live in, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I've taken social media breaks from watching stuff like the past 2 weeks because it's just gotten absolutely obnoxious. Between listening to some of the people that I'm friends with to people I clearly don't know, but the news in general, it's all ridiculous. Anytime race gets brought up, it gets so blown out of proportion, and it's so crazy. And this is my thoughts and what I feel. I think it's all absolutely bullshit, garbage. That's out. Not being outraged about what happened, sure, but when it comes to people saying that these lives don't matter and this race needs to do that and that race needs to do this, is not. It's stupid. It's not accurate, and it's all based off emotion and not even remotely close to being factual. And I think it's obnoxious and it's selfish at the same time. And I think whatever's going on and whatever reactions they're getting is the complete opposite of what should be going on and of what they're actually looking for. So it's all just it's stupid shit. And in the past 2 weeks, I have yet to hear one version of a dialogue or solution to anything. It's just people complaining, and I just don't believe in that.
Yeah, I wonder when and who would partake. Like, who's going to represent from that party to sit down, have the sit down. How are they going? What needs to happen is definitely a reform, but then who's going to represent for the reform?
Right. Right.
And that's what they need. They need. Does the party want the AOC to be the speaker? Who do they want to be the forerunner to sit down with all the powers that be and say, this is the reform? Can we meet on these standards?
No, because on that side, they want a rebellion and they want it to basically their answer on since technically we don't live in a two-party system, but in all reality, it's a two-party system. One party wants the other party to just lose, and that way they can just take control. And the key way to doing that is to do things like rioting and all those things, because they already have the believers believing, and the only thing left to do is try to force the intelligent thinkers who don't have a side or do have a side to switch to one side. And
that's why I like a parliament idea. If you have representatives of each section of the United States, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe there needs a little reform like this. It's broken up into whatever quadrants or eighths, of regions. And they all meet and they represent and they speak. Mm-hmm. And they all speak for that section. I think that would be great. Even if it's the 50 or 52, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they all come and they meet, and that's where they make the decisions on their states. And those states should legitimately vote for who they want. And if we could make it a fair elective system, right? Boom. These are your representation of your state that you have chosen. They will now make the 52% or whatever the votes of what we're going to do in the overall. But I am one who is still for the police. I like the regular idea of police. I like that. I think they're definitely still valued, even though if I have personal differences with any other side order, but I still think we need them, and I do like the idea of them, and I think this pushing of the defunding is dumb. But I do agree with a nice, solid reform. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because you'll see 100 different explanations and ways of what defunding is, and then you'll see at the same time / abolish. Well, if you abolish it, you're fucked. And then defunding it is just as bad, but you need a reform. But taking money and allocating it somewhere else, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. And then you're going to have less cops in the street. And what are you going to do? You're going to cry that there's not enough cops in the street.
I like auditing and getting your checks and balances nice and correct and making those public record for people to get caught up.
What do you mean?
Like seeing, all right, look, this is how much was funded. This is what they have. This is public record of what each...
It is public record.
Well, I'm saying, like, this is what your town has, right? Boom. Equipment and all that stuff, and this is how much they're funded. So once it becomes public record, you can't complain about what you know about they're being funded. Now, as far as funding, dude, you still need to get these guys paychecks, so it's going to come from taxpayer money, right? Mm-hmm. But they do need to be trained on social society. Like, so if I have, let's just say if I'm Black or African American and I have a son with autism now, this is me speaking from where I work, right? I wouldn't, if my child's acting out, I would fear that they would come and aggressively attack my son 100%, because they're not trained to work with, kids with behaviors like that, not knowing he's not a violent person.
Why don't they call social workers for that? I don't understand.
I don't know, like, and that's
is that
the
what
bias.
They're supposed to do?
Like, there's a clear bias in that. They don't know individuals with special needs, either any race actually, right? If you're acting out and you're a big white kid and you're acting out and you have special needs, they don't know that, right? They should be trained to work with people with special needs. There needs to be a lot of new training on how to approach situations.
Now, how do they know of their special needs?
I think, I don't want to put out there, but like, I think us as parents should be like, hey, I have a child who sometimes runs out of the house. Can you keep an eye on him? This is my son, or this is my daughter. You know what I mean? I would actually probably be proactive. I'm just a weirdo like that. And be like, I'd go down there and be like, this is my child. If you know what I mean? If he ever goes missing, this is, at least you know who it is. And then in town, you know what I mean? If you have it's become so socially acceptable because, unfortunately, the rise of autism and everything has grown, that if you have a child with behaviors, I think it's good to let them know so they know to approach your child. Like, hey, ma'am,
I mean, it's like if somebody has a problem or that needs special attention, it should be out there in case of an emergency or something happens. Like somebody, if you have a relative or know somebody with dementia or something along those lines, Yeah,
exactly. Like, now having this conversation makes me rethink my idea of the old man.
What do you mean?
Getting pushed in Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
So prior to that, you knew what my stance was even if I'm with the side of the protesters, right? Which I feel, for the most part, I am. That guy, to be fair, and me being a, beautiful Libra that I am, try to weigh balance. Like, he should have got out of the way. You don't know if that old man is holding any weapon, a small arm like a 22 or something, and he could just hit them with the quick draw. They don't know that, and both sides knowing that they don't know, you shouldn't throw gas on the fire, is what I'm saying. And it sucks that he was an old man, but now let's just say the dementia thing. They don't, I think it could have been treated different. They're big enough, they're more agile enough, they could have just did a quick little boom, boom, zip tie or handcuff on him and then just put him to the side. Even if they did it aggressively, it would have been fine. They didn't have to bulldoze him over after seeing it.
No, I agree. I mean, I thought it was, it was too aggressive, but my whole thing is like, why do you need to get in their faces? And, you're a 75-year-old man and you're getting in somebody's face. who's didn't have anything to do with whatever it is that went on the originally what you were out there protesting to begin with, and then you're getting in their face for whatever reason. Like, did that police officer specifically do something to you beforehand? No, probably not. But you got to go out there and antagonize and whatever else. I mean, it's like granted, yes, they are cops, and you need to save face and whatever else. But he's also a human being. So if you keep pushing somebody, that could have been the 20th person in the last 5 minutes who did the same shit to him, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, it stinks, because what if that old man was an old war vet who fought for the flag, and he's standing with the protesters?
But he wasn't standing with the protesters. He was walking the other way after they were telling him to go the other way.
Was he just a regular pedestrian?
No, he's a regular protester. He does this regularly.
The old man?
Yes. He's a seasoned protester.
He's experienced.
Yes.
He did go down easy like it was planned, but his ear was bleeding too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't planned, unplanned, whatever else. The whole is just, why are you doing that? And I'm not justifying what the police officer's pushing the guy or whatever else. I'm just saying, on a non-biased.
You don't have
basis,
to. You don't.
Yeah, like what's the point in doing that? Like we all sit here and we act like no one's ever pushed our buttons before. Like we can have a loved one push our buttons and we're all get all bent out of shape.
And that's where the reform needs to happen, in my opinion. I would like weekly drug tests on these guys that are supposed to be policing us. All right, mandated weekly public drug tests. There should be a constant update. Like if you are held at this higher standard, now let's say you're held at this higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with them making more money too, but you're gonna be selected, and we're gonna be selective. You know what I mean? Because if you're gonna be held at that standard to uphold the law for everyone in the community, we're going to trust you, you're going to trust us, it should be okay for us to know that you're not fucking sniffing gaggers on Tuesday and, passing the test on Thursday because it's out of your system so quick. So I think you should definitely you should be allowed the legal vices. So if you can recreationally smoke weed, cops should too. He can have fucking drinks on the weekend or when he's off duty. Why not? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Be a human, because you got to be a human to, respect the human. So
now it's a cop drug problem, you're saying?
I think there's like steroids and coke and shit that gets thrown in the mix, and those add for aggression, and I think, but if it's all legal vices and no one has to worry about things, like I said, if you're drinking and driving, you're smoking weed and driving and all that shit, and you get pulled over, that's your own fault, and a cop shouldn't be able to do it too. But if the cop's home on the weekend, he's not on duty, or he's not on the on-call shift, dude, let him get drunk, let him fucking, he's a guy or a girl, you know what I mean? Let them fucking enjoy the vices that they can legally, that we can legally, so I have no problem with that, and that's why I'm saying I still want police. They just need to be trained better. They need to probably have weekly psych appointments, because they see fucked up shit on their own. So they should, so they don't lose their jadedness. They should always be brought back to reality weekly.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea how the psychology of it works, and that would even.
I mean, just
really
think
matter.
of the trauma they see going to abusive houses and stuff. Like they live with that. So.
Oh, I know. I understand the trauma they see, but I don't know if that treatment would even matter.
I think it should, because
there's plenty of people who talk to people and then they don't get fixed, regularly. I mean, if you want to, going back to what you were saying about the weekly drug test, and the same thing should be done for teachers then, because we sit here, I'm not a parent, but parents do the same thing, so anything that's a civil servant
could be out there fucking finger blasting on camera.
Well, what do you mean on camera?
Like fucking to her 14-year-old students or something. She'd be like, "Hey, Tommy."
What's to do with drugs, though?
Well, I guess you're right.
But I mean, I don't care about the drug testing and all that shit. That's whatever. I don't have any numbers on that or fact or anything else. But I mean, that's you're basing that off an assumption, and the thing I have is that I think the process of becoming a police officer is way too easy. I think that going to in what you need to become a police officer, as far as education and training, is just too. it's not special enough. It's not you're not doing enough vetting to allow people to be in that type of position and have that power. Hence, you got the scumbag police officers who are on power trips, who are picked on, and who are just assholes. I mean, I've been pulled over by those new young rookie cops, and they just want to prove a point. And it's just like, why do you need to prove a point? You know, and it's just like, because that's why it's like the FBI. They do that. You get a psychological profile in this heavy vetting before you're even allowed to do such a thing.
You wouldn't have white privilege, one.
Dude, white privilege isn't a thing. We'll get into that after.
Well, I'm saying when I get pulled over, I get scared still. But
dude, everybody gets scared when they get pulled over. Show me one person of any race or any gender that sits there and goes, "Fuck yeah, blues."
So for one, like, let's say I see, brown, Asian, covered tattoo, finger tattoos for any race, and neck tattoos. Throw any privilege out the window for any cop. You know what I'm saying? I see you, and I'm like, I don't know what kind of affiliation this guy's in. Now look at, he's got his knuckles all tatted. He's got his fucking face tatted. He's all covered up, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think as far as white privilege, too, alone, thrown out the window when they see that off the jump. And a lot of people disagree with me with that, but...
Dude, most people I know disagree with me that I'm friends with about white privilege, and it's still not a thing to me. And I think
this definitely is a privilege, though.
I think if depending on where you go, this is the problem. People will always say white privilege because as white people, because they're like, I know in this situation. Well, you know what? Go to another neighborhood and see how much white privilege you have.
Yeah, and I mean,
they talk like white privilege is a universal, all around, no matter where you go, no matter what situation. But just because you're white, you're going to get an advantage. Not true.
The benefits, but I've also have seen not the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I've been, held at gunpoint, like whatever, multiple times, and it's because they think I'm Arabic. So I guess Italian doesn't exist in their eyes. If you are
it's that nose,
lightly complected, I got that Arabic nose and those big eyebrows. Like they were like, "Ooh,
you fucking hairy as fuck."
Yeah, dude, I've been called Taliban and all types of stuff, and I'm like, I'm Italian. I'm like actually offended that they're saying that to me. So funny. The Italian pride comes right out. Are you fucking crazy?
Oh God. You gonna continue with your story?
So,
wow, dude. Like seriously?
I'm sorry.
You literally know you're supposed to talk to. We had to put a cut in there, by the way. Now he just shoves cookies in his face because he's diabetic.
It's a delicious cookie. So.
Yeah, after having a Kool-Aid and whatever else.
I was abusing the privilege of being able to cut these up. So, I've also been, I guess, the beneficiary of whatever, being a townie. I've been pulled over, and it was all aggressive, and I was super, just comply, and give the ID. And then when he's like, oh, you live in town, you're just new in town. Well, you're all right then. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, thanks, And if I was from out of town, I probably would have got screwed. But he gave me a little welcoming, no ticket, and let me go.
So it has nothing to do with race.
I think it might have. I felt.
So you think this is the thing? You think it does? Like, there's no evidence to the fact that it did. You assume it, and that's the problem. Everybody assumes that there's this type of stuff.
I think if I was new in town, maybe it was summertime for me, I might have got a ticket.
Because that's not a race thing. That's I live in town or I don't. That has nothing to do with your fucking race. That's a stupid argument. It really is. Like what we were talking about versus that explanation for a story is not the same thing.
Well, I can't.
And that's the problem. And this isn't a knock on you, but this is a knock on society in general. People always make those correlations. What did you get pulled over for?
It's my own fault. But.
So exactly. So there's a minor detail that a lot of people leave out of being of getting pulled over and and everything else. Stop giving people reasons to pull you over.
I fully agree with you all day. You need to be proactive with everything. I was an idiot. He goes, you were on your phone. I was looking at my GPS because I'm new in town. He said, show me your phone. I got scared.
Because Pokemon was on it.
And I showed him Pokemon, which looks like a GPS. And he goes, all right, well, you're right. So, because he didn't know what Pokemon looked like.
Because he's an adult.
So it was my own fault for playing Pokemon while driving.
So that's my point. Too, a lot of
you gotta own it. You need to own it.
You do, and there's a lot of claims out there where people like you. Don't get me wrong. People get pulled over because of what they look like. I used to get pulled over all the time because of what I look like. I've been pulled over for wearing a hood while driving in the middle of winter.
I pull you over.
And I've been pulled over because of various other reasons, and including breaking the law. But I drive slow as shit, so it's never speeding except for once. Yeah. And because it was a school zone, and going 20 miles an hour after flying down the road is actually pretty hard sometimes. But regardless, it was like I've been taken out of my car, I've been patted down, and I've been breathalyzed. And you know what? I don't blame the cops for any of it. It's just like, is it frustrating and shitty? Yeah, it is. Is it a pain in the ass? Yeah, it is. But you know what? I don't act like an asshole. And I comply. And if they ask a question, I give it to them. If they're looking for a reason for something, like when I got breathalyzed, I wasn't even drinking. And, and had to do the whole field sobriety test and stuff. A question on one thing, and I happened to be with somebody who was drinking, and he answered the question for me because they weren't listening to me because I was in the middle of Alabama. They definitely weren't listening to somebody who was a little bit tan in Alabama.
They'd rather listen to the drunk white guy.
Yes, and they did. And that's fine. It is what it is. I'm in Alabama. Should I not expect racism?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to reform.
Dude, it's not going to happen. It's not.
It will happen.
Dude, racism will never disappear.
You don't think racism's only American?
Dude, as long as there's races.
I think it's only American.
It's not, because you don't travel, so you have no fucking clue. You can go to Asia, dude, they have no clue about black anything. They think every black person is exactly like they see on television and in the movies. And you think that's great representation of black people?
No, in Africa, they don't think that.
You know what an African thinks of black Americans? Do you honestly know? I've talked to plenty of FOBs from Africa, and they hate black Americans because of the way they act. They do.
I know plenty of black Americans. One's one of my mentors who hates imports, as he calls them. He's straight from New York, the Bronx.
Yeah.
And he's like, Jay, I hate these motherfuckers. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, so
I never engage in those conversations because he's like, yeah, because you can't. And I'm like, definitely not.
Do you not? And you look at the old school Italians and Irish in Boston and in the major cities, and they're as racist as they come. And that goes as far back. No disrespect to your grandfather, right. But your grandfather was the same way.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah. So I mean, and he's from the motherland. So you can't tell me other countries are not racist. You can't. At all. That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's a ridiculous thought. It's an absolute ridiculous. We are probably.
I think he might have been taught that here. Because if you're
he could have learned it here because he does. There isn't.
That's what I'm saying. Look, if you're Asian in Italy and you're born in Italy and you're just growing up in Italy, you're Italian. Second, you come to America, you become like.
Is this you speaking? Knowing
this is me just assuming.
You can't assume. You have to base it off of fact. You can't have a whole group of people from one country who just learn to be racist all at once.
No, I don't know.
No, you come here that way because you have even if you did learn it here, it's because you have no assumption of that race because you don't know because there's no abundance of it over there. Now, my issue with thinking that other countries aren't racist is mind-blowing to me because we are probably the least racist country in the world, in my opinion, for the simple fact that we are the most integrated country on the planet.
Yeah, I mess with that.
Hands down. Yeah. So you can't be a racist country, but allow every race in here.
I dig it.
People in the country can be racist. We can have more racist people because we're a huge fucking country who's allowed to say whatever they want. Now, other countries don't say whatever they want because they're not allowed to say whatever they want.
Well, that's why people are still migrating here from other countries of different ethnicities.
So you cannot be considered the most racist country in the world and still have a bunch of people who are of different races come rushing in here and sneaking in here and risking shark-infested waters and getting shot and whatever else and say, we want to go to the most racist country in the world and I'm willing to die for it. Who the fuck says that?
Yeah.
Nobody, because it's a lie. Because people who say that have no idea and are not as cultured as they think, and don't take the time to actually sit and talk to people, and learn from different people, or actually go visit places and see what it's like for themselves.
And that makes sense. What you just said is that would be a great Facebook post. Is why would people from all cultures risk their own lives to go through shark-infested waters and bullets to come to the most racist country in the world?
Yeah. And
I would be afraid now to come here because it's at a civil war.
Well, that's because we're
like, oh shit, I'm not going there.
But that's at the moment. And you know what? The civil war here is nothing compared to what these countries are going to do.
Yeah.
So this is nothing to them. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke to them.
We're going to that vacation spot.
Yeah, they're like, look, that's fun in the sun for them. What's going on? They're
going to Chaz.
They're like, they call that protesting.
Chaz is sending pamphlets to tourism.
Yeah, right.
Come to beautiful Chaz.
Yeah, this country accepts you. We got 6 city blocks just for you. Bring your tent. And it's just like it doesn't make sense. I mean, the example I always use, and people still don't get it. You didn't get it.
Are you gonna call a plumber?
When I said, who fucking cares? Stop talking about Chaz, dude. It's a stupid fucking waste of time. It's not even worth even
it's a new vacation spot.
given time for. And the is that I brought this up to you. I was like, look at the Olympic teams for every country that goes there. Who's got the most diversity in the Olympic teams? The Americans. It's a god honest truth. You see the China team? Do you ever see a white person, black person, Spanish person in the team? No. You look at the only other team that can come close to it are the English and the French. That's it. Go look it up historically. Just look up every team if anybody wants to actually take the time and do any homework. And I think that's a great example.
During World War II, didn't we bring a very diverse group, and that pissed off Hitler or something?
Yeah, they weren't going to compete back in in the 30s, 36, must have been 36 or something like that. I don't know what the year would have been. But
because we had black athletes.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And it's just what people care to not observe, and it's basic observation. Now we can all look past.
Who was the president at that time? I wonder what party he was.
Why does that matter? That has nothing to do with the Olympic team.
I'm a big button pusher, a potty pusher. I like pushing buttons with potties.
Okay.
So what if he was a Republican?
I don't know. Was it Eisenhower? I don't know. What the hell does it do with Republican and Democrat?
Because I always say the Republicans is for the people, even though people assume that it's the opposite.
Yeah, I know they do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it was a Republican president at the time, that'd be backing up my statement even more.
I don't know. That's something we have to look up, but anyway, I mean, I think it's
Run for a second. I'm gonna look that up.
Go to look it up. I'll talk. What are you going to look up specifically? No, you take forever to look shit up. I'll just look it up for Christ's sake. Because you can't fucking Google for shit.
My keywords, I am a keyword genius. I would search United States Olympics.
I'm not. Just
Nazi
fucking talk.
protests or something like that.
No. See, that's the thing. You type in, there's too many words.
No, keywords. So, yeah, I mean... Do I want to run with the Dixie Dems right now? We're not really on that. But we can actually segue both of that, the Dems and this whole movement right now. So I like to refer to the 90s with Tipper Gore and Al Gore and the Clintons and all the prison reform, like with all the privatized prisons, like really got put into business effect, and these Democrats were making money off all of that. And now they're pushing for the defunding, and I want people to see that defunding people you went to high school with, even though that's not in all cities, that's just the benefit of us in a small town, but defunding people that right now are familiar with your grounds, you're allowing then a higher force to come take charge. Now, if you want to end up what we're seeing on the live streams of Chaz over a week...
It was a Democratic president.
I do think it was?
Mm-hmm.
Who was it?
Roosevelt.
Is that the Union Buster kid?
What?
Is that
Franklin Roosevelt? It's Franklin Roosevelt, FDR.
He's one of the best presidents in the world.
Yeah.
He was a Democrat?
He was.
I'm upset.
Well, just keep going.
I thought he was. Shit, so... Hey, how's your theory, Regal? It's done. I do see them as the ones pushing for the demise because I think they can make money off a military state now, too. You know what I'm saying?
Say that again?
So the Democrats are pushing for the people to do the whole defunding thing when they own all them, so they're not going to give something up without a benefit of it. So if they can defund them and then, globalize or then administer their military in their FEMA camps a little better.
Okay.
I don't know. That's me being with my conspiracies on it.
So what's the conspiracy?
Them pushing this defunding movement with a hidden agenda to make money on an even stronger force to take over the cities.
Oh yeah, I mean that's obvious though, because they want to find a way to control it, which is a lot like just like the Nazis did it. That's no coincidence, by the way. And they disbanded. They lied to them and the police and said, they did a different approach. They lied to the police, and then they eventually disbanded them and formed them, into the SS. And this, so it's similar to the approach that they're doing now. The approach they're doing now is also very similar to how communist Russia used to use. It was a tactic they used to turn countries into communist nations, and it worked. It's a long-term goal, but this is one of the examples of how it works and how it's done, and that is to cause chaos in the streets and throw around a lot of propaganda, which is what they do.
And now they know how to make it done faster. Because of technology, media.
No, even then they did it then just the same. The technology, like you said, though, is what's changing it. The media's always been the media, and that's what they're already doing.
But it always took longer to print, so it would take them
Dude, not everything was in newspapers in the 80s, okay? There was television.
No, I'm talking about during Stalin days and stuff, their propaganda.
I'm not talking about actual communism in Russia. There was already communism. I'm talking about communism in other countries and how you transform a country into communism. Then you got to go into what's going on in those countries, and that's what they were doing here in America back in the 80s, and they were trying to do. And that part of the approach is I posted on Facebook. There's a great interview with a guy who worked for the KGB, who was trained and tasked with training people on how to convert countries into communism. And it's an hour-long discussion, but it's amazing because everything is an exact replica of what's going on now. Exactly the same, word for word. And even what he says about liberals, it's like you can't change a liberal's mind because a liberal is amoral. He goes, they don't believe in facts. And he goes, you can put the facts right in front of their face, and they still won't believe you. And the only way they'll ever believe you is if you run them over with a tank right up their ass. And that he goes, that's the truth. He goes, well, we were trained to, when we want to convert, is to not deal with liberals because it's useless, and to deal with people who are actually conservative and try to change their minds on things. And he goes, and then because when things happen out in the street, so basically it's like the Lincoln Project. Those Republicans against Trump.
No.
Yes, there's a faction of
it's
Kellyanne Conway's husband started it, and so it's
wasn't she pro-Trump?
She is pro-Trump.
So how's that work out if she's pro-Trump and he's trying to?
Well, because in some relationships you can have different beliefs in something, and it can still work out. It's quite a fascinating thing, to be honest with you.
That's how we work at the house.
Yeah, and it's and that's how I work with a lot of my friends.
My missus totally disagrees with my brain.
Dude, your friends disagree with your brains.
It's the best. But we have civil conversations.
Yeah, exactly. So
till recently, which is why we're having this podcast.
Why, you guys don't have the same conversations?
The recent threshold and topic has been decided to let's not talk about it if we have different feelings. And that's where I'm like, I'm so in the middle, but I try to keep things also justified.
What do you mean justified?
Like, again, with the old man thing, I said he shouldn't have broke the line. Now, I'm on the side of the old man.
You're like, you're trying to see things like me, where you're trying to see one side and the other and just say, like, we don't, whatever happened clashed. And it's hard to see a right and a wrong to things in that manner. And I think, that's what, part of what huge problems are going on with now is that everything has to be one way or the other. And in some such situations, of course, You know, so but like people, you got to, like, you know, you have to delve into, you know, things a lot deeper and see what the reasoning is behind it. If we went by one video, what happened in Atlanta last night, then the cops are wrong. But if you see the full video, what happened, I think the cops are justified perfectly fine.
No, lethal force. That's part of my reform too. Regal's reform is
what was bullets. What was his other choice? Rubber he doesn't bullets. Have rubber bullets, John, and they don't have rubber bullets in their guns. So you can't sit there and go, pause, let me reform this. I'm talking about at the moment. Don't talk about a reform. Talk about at the moment. What was he supposed to do?
Dude, tackle him.
Yes, they already did that. He already stole the weapon from their hands.
Pepper spray.
All right? They already stole the weapon from his hands.
I don't know how they're not strong enough to put a man down then. They don't have to put him down with lethal force.
John, he stole the weapon from them. He turned around, was going to shoot them with the taser. You shoot him with the taser and incapacitate the officer and steal his gun.
There was a second officer, though.
What's he going to do next?
If the taser's in the second officer, the guy doesn't have another taser. That other
John,
guy has one.
You don't. But this is the thing. First of all, you said how can't they keep two guys couldn't keep him down. Second of all,
they weren't strong enough.
No, you know why? Because they're under a fucking microscope and they can't do shit the way they're trained to do it because people are standing there with fucking cameras and filming everything. That's why.
That's why they shouldn't have shot him.
Why?
Rubber bullets, baby.
John, that's not. You're giving an answer based off of a non-option.
The guy should.
What is the option?
They were pussies. They should have been strong enough to tackle him.
And they got him down. The guy stole his weapon.
Okay, so the other guy hits him with a nightstick.
Then now you're beating the guy.
Well, you got to hit him once or twice.
Now you're losing your job because you did something that everybody's ripping apart at the moment. Him in the
legs.
If you're doing John, you're doing something that everybody's saying lose your fucking job. And then you're going to go home and then you're going to fear for your wife and kids because now your name's out there because you did something like that because you're literally under a microscope and everything you do is wrong to begin with.
So, like you said, we can't, about last night. But, so the reform would be this. You have to accept it. We're going to train the cops.
We're not talking about reform. You still haven't answered the question of what you should have done.
I just think the guy shouldn't have died. 100%. They shouldn't have used lethal force.
I'm asking you what they should have done.
Been stronger.
John, being stronger is not an option at the moment.
I just answered. That's my answer.
That's not an answer.
They should have been better trained.
That's not an answer to what happened at that moment. John, if you got the shit kicked out of you because of something you started,
all right.
You know what I mean? You should have said, I should have been stronger.
I know what they should have done. Know what they should have done? Literally, he's on camera.
Yeah.
Right? They have his car. He already said who he was and stuff on camera. They should have let him go. And then they would have got him again. He would have been on the run. He's a fugitive.
So
that's
in a sense, I don't disagree with you.
They should have let him go. He lives and he still gets arrested.
Guys we don't know these facts. Guy was on a warrant for a violent crime.
If he was on the run for a murder, a rape, he's going down.
So how do we not know that? Because we don't know these facts.
Because if you got the
how do we as observers on the outside right now not know that's not what it was?
But
then
they should know because they're.
So what if I was asking you? So what if he was? Now what do you do? Still let him go?
I think that would no. That's what I'm saying. If I am the officer, and I'm running his information, he's really got nothing, and he's saying he's got kids, and he ends up getting away, and he's drunk. I'm gonna let him go, just like when they stopped chasing cars going fast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fall back. I already got your information.
So who's to say then who's to say that's what the situation was? We don't know. So that's my point. We don't know what the stories are.
I think that's
so we came in. I think he was fine doing that because if I was in that situation and someone's about to shoot me and incapacitate me and take my gun and possibly shoot me.
Well, you got to think that guy right now is alarmed. He's like, shit, if he was drunk, I don't know, because I got to go watch the whole full video. Someone already sent me the link of the whole body cam.
You have to watch the expanded form as well. You can't just watch body cam.
Version of it. So I haven't, I told him I haven't been able to watch it. I can only say that if he did and he was pleading, he was just got out of there and he was drunk, they could have just been like, all right, if he resisted arrest, I haven't seen it. So if he resists arrest, right?
I showed you the video of him resisting arrest.
How do you think he ends up with the cop's taser and punching him in the face? You don't call that resisting arrest?
I can't believe they couldn't get him down. That's just...
They were down on the ground.
And they couldn't get him in handcuffs? Then they're just bad trained officers, dude. Literally. That's piss poor police work. You go to tackle someone on an NFL...
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. What happens? You sit the bench. If you can't tackle him, that's piss poor tackling.
Okay.
All right? You can't fucking... You're trained and you're with two officers. It's one guy. You can't get him in the handcuffs?
No, you were trained to do something a certain way. Now you're not allowed to do that.
If it's to the books, they have to do it. And that's what we need to understand,
so,
too.
In the books, you can put somebody on their stomach, kneel them down, and handcuff them. Do you think that's going to be taken very well right now? Do you think that's going to be taken very well right now?
Asphyxiation. That's where...
No, do you think, because this has already been done... They've already had cops filmed arresting people, just putting the knee on their back, and people making a big fucking stink about it when nothing happened.
They put it with force.
That's how they're trained to do it. In the woman was fine.
They put it aggressively in.
On the one who died, yes, but on the next video that I saw from this past weekend, the woman was talking, being fine, and whatever else. But the assumption was what the guy was using force, and he wasn't. That's the problem. Everything's based off assumption, just like you just assumed everything's based off of force. Now, if you just look like you're kneeling on somebody, we've all faked doing that with wrestling as a kid. We know nothing. We weren't not breathing, but the perception is always going to be negative at this point. So if the officer is doing that, then they're fucked because they're under a microscope. John, if you want to see both sides, you really need to see both sides.
For me to see both sides and explain it, right now with technology, both sides need to accept this. You can't tell someone to shut off their camera then from here on out. A cop can't at all.
No, that's fine, and there should be a problem. There should be.
I suggest for everybody of all ethnicities, just comply. Make sure it's filmed, and someone will come get you out. So that way, if I ever got pulled over, and I do this anyways, like I was trained, I think the right way because I get harassed all the time when I get pulled over, and I pull over, I literally shut my car off, I put the blinker on, hands on the top, right?
You shut your car off, then turn the blinker on? That's a wrong order. I think you were drunk. I think you were drunk too.
But I fall through it. I'm like, boom, and I have my license already ready to go. And I come over, I say, officer, right? I don't ask what I was pulled over for. I talk to him, boom, and then I feel him out. If they seem personable, we'll chat. If not, it's right by the books, and I try to avoid any citations. But I always get checked. I always get held for at least 20 minutes, dude. I'm like, seriously, this is.
See, you as a white person have had way worse dealings with police officers on average than I have.
I've had some bad experiences. Yeah.
So where's your white privilege?
I'm Arabic.
No, where's your white privilege on that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. That's just a small, tiny, minuscule thing, I'll argue.
But that's what I'm saying. They already assume that I'm someone different.
You're assuming they assume that. That's the fucking difference. Don't forget, trouble follows you everywhere, and it always has since you were a kid. As long as I've known you, it followed you everywhere. So there's a reason why. You're projecting some sort of dickheadedness that seems to follow you. I'm not shitting you. And I believe that. The way we acted out and we put out in the universe comes back. And you have this like cocky, stupid, even though you are complying with things, you still have this thing where like, and it's not like you are cocky by any stretch of the imagination. You're not. You just have this like awkward goofiness to you that just comes across as dickheadish if you don't know you. So and you let that out.
One of our buddies told me the other night, he's like, even when me and you argued, he's like, you throw punches, and he goes, and they're subtle punches, but they're fucking dickhead punches.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, yeah.
Yeah, you do it. Dude, how many times have I told you I'll never tell you anything personal about my life ever again?
Because he just takes jabs.
Because in 10 years, you'll use it against me if you get mad at me. Because that's just like, that's what you do. And it's such a dickheadish thing to do.
I don't need to.
Because
I've worked on that.
The thing is, though, you think it's funny.
No, I've worked on
it. Like, imagine what people could go after with you, and you've done battles.
Well,
you seriously, you know, but you have things that you say, don't go there. Well, you don't know what I have that says don't go there, but you go there anyway.
But,
you know?
I've worked on it, and I do try to be aware of what I say, and then when I get put in my place, I try to eat it And that's the big thing.
And plus, one thing you do when you get in a nervous situation, you laugh like a motherfucker and you smile, and that comes across. Yeah. Honestly, and this is just, you know, part of your charm as on a one-on-one or a group situation. But in those situations, dude, it comes across as you're either on drugs if you cop doesn't know any better, or B, that you're just being a smartass, and that's the problem. You legitimately come off as a smartass, and it's from an observer who sees you in those situations, not with cops, but with like people. It's endearing to see because it cracks me up. Like for a dude who throws himself out there all the time, to see you get shaken up in those nervous situations, literally cracks me up on the inside. You know, because I see it in your face because you don't know what to do, and that's your way to react to stressful situations. You know, whether it be a death of a friend or whether it be you're meeting somebody for the first time that you might have envied in some way. It's like it coincides. It's interesting to see, but I mean that's what your reaction, your problem is. So that's what it comes off though. That's why they would give you problems. Me, I straight up admit what's wrong. I never try to chit chat with them unless they want to. You know, I've only verbally fought with cops twice because they were fucking dickheads, and they gave me the ticket and let me go, or they didn't give me a ticket at all. One time they gave me a ticket, I got a squashed like 30 minutes later, but because it was a stupid ticket that just should have never been. In the other ticket, the guy was so scared of me. Like, literally, I never saw his face, never saw his body. He did everything he could to hide himself from me as a cop.
Remember when I lived here, I had that issue with them coming down the neighborhood I was in. And they were giving myself and the neighbors a hard time about parking on our street, but we were parked the opposite way facing up.
Yeah.
And they were letting all the other locals drop off the kids with the sign that literally says no drop off.
Yeah.
Like private road.
Yeah.
And they were letting it happen in front as they were trying to give us tickets, and I gave him a hard time. And he's like, yo, mind your business. And I was like, yeah, no, you're not giving me a ticket. I'll move my car right now. You move that car, And I was like, he put the hammer on the holster, and I just jumped in my car. And I was like, no. And I just kept going. I was like, you're gonna shoot me, like right now? I hopped in my car, started it, moved it. So I guess I was a victim and a beneficiary of privilege.
Yeah, right? you know what sucks about that, and this goes with the neighborhood you live in. It's one of those situations where it's like we got to make our presence known. That's all it was.
They judge heavy on that. Though.
Of course they do. And that's just it's.
But that's any
that
race.
That has nothing to do with race. That's just the culture of the neighborhood.
When you live down there, you're judged off of
that. You can't blame that necessarily on them, but you can blame it on the history of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate, but it's going to follow. Dude, think about growing up, what we thought of that neighborhood.
So I try to advocate that there are good cops. And I had this discussion the other day, too. I was building all this material for this one. And my friend who rebutted back was, if there were good cops, they would stick up for the bad cops. And I go, there are good cops who stick up for the bad cops. And he goes, and where are they? And I go, I don't know.
What do you mean they stick up for the bad cops?
I mean, like they'll put them out there.
Oh,
you know
okay.
What I mean? Like be a whistleblower.
Yeah.
I was like, there are good cops, and they'll call out the bad cops. And then he goes, where are they? And I go, well, I don't know. And he's like, yeah. He goes, they're either dead or they're fighting.
Yeah. And that's what the problem is.
And
then that's where I've always believed there should be a huge reform, but I don't know how you tackle that.
So
really don't.
He's not wrong about at the moment. Like his discussion is there are no good cops, and I said
no. That's such a fucking.
I go
lie.
no. I go it's about 65%. I go there's still a force of good cops, and he goes and that was our discussion was well if there are why where are they?
Well, the problem is that the police don't police the police. You know what I mean? There's an internal police that does, which is stupid, and there needs to be an independent arbiter that does that, and that's the problem. Yeah. You can't have former police policing police in a police station.
No, you can't.
You can't. But you can have one on an independent basis. Say a cop did something wrong in Boston. Have a New York arbiter come here.
Yeah.
Not a New York cop, a New York arbiter. You know what I mean?
They need to do background checks for brother-in-law, sister-in-law, cousins.
Absolutely. I mean, all the links
no
and
conflicts.
It has to be. It's going to take a long time, but the justice system takes a long time in this country anyway, and that's how it needs to be done. And one thing they seriously need to get rid of is paid administrative leave, whatever the fuck that bullshit is.
No, yeah,
that's going to be gone.
You can get unemployment
because you know what because that's the idea of it. It's like I can fuck up and still get paid. Yeah. You know what? Because I'm already looking for a way out anyway.
They're still getting their full money.
Exactly, and that's bullshit.
And you should lose your pension.
Yeah. So you know what? Let's go over it right now. What would our plan I think you and I are basically on the same page here.
I'm rubber bullets all day.
Okay, no, our plan.
They hurt.
I agree. We should be. What would you let me finish my question? By the way,
yeah.
What is our suggestion for reform on an overall basis? Because I'm personally, this is a cop problem. This isn't a white-black problem. The media made it a white-black thing. Yeah. As soon as that thing, it's a cop problem. Yeah. I'm not saying all cops are problems, but it's a cop problem in the essence that, as a whole, the training is wrong or outdated. We'll say outdated. The training needs to be reformed, and it needs to be a more intense retraining in understanding. And you're right. The use of force needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah, so people are mad they have military gear, but you know what? They're being fired on with real bullets. So I want them to be armored, but as far as their bullets, rubber bullets probably hurt like a motherfucker.
They do.
And you're going down and you're feeling it. So I think their bullets should be rubber, but they should be protected for real bullets themselves. Right?
Mm-hmm. There's got to be a way for them to have... the way that people can be innovative technology-wise with a weapon or engineering, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, non-lethal weapon.
There has to be a way for them to have both. Yeah. Somehow, whether it's a clip...
If they need to go lethal, for actual real shooters, 100%.
There has to be a clip. All clips should have rubber bullets in it.
Keep them on deck, on their vests.
Exactly, but the real bullets should be on deck.
Yeah.
And the rubber bullets should be, yes, exactly. And I don't know the reality of that and what the numbers would be, but I think that's something along those lines should be there. Yep. The retraining, I don't understand. I'm not a fighter as far as jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, so I don't know what choke holding and all that thing. But, it's effective, and it's mathematically killed nobody in essence. You know what I mean?
I think it would also build a lot of money back in America, reforming these and getting them the proper weapons. I guess we're not going to process rubber in America, right? We're going to leave that to a third world country to.
No, you can find somebody who a company. There's a company where I worked at down the street that makes bullets.
Rubber bullets, not metal bullets.
They make metal bullets, but you could the same essence. If you can make a bullet that explodes or does certain things, you can fucking figure out how to make whatever rubber bullets are.
I'm talking about how to recycle all that rubber and make it get useful. So it could be a green project too.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm sure there's a way they could find a way to go. You know what? Rubber's fucking. There's free rubber in those fucking tire farms everywhere.
Yeah.
How do we do that and not destroy the environment? Because you burn rubber, it's fucking terrible oil.
And imagine getting hit by a freaking propelled rubber bullet coming at you at 100 miles per hour. That's gonna hurt. So you're gonna rethink. You're like, wait, they're not gonna kill you. Now they're just gonna really.
It's gonna hurt. You're gonna break a fucking rib. You're gonna.
I'm on board with tasers, pepper spray. Dude, England has their cops don't even have guns. I don't think. I think they just have their sticks.
No, I think they're the only ones allowed to have guns. Oh no, the patrol cops don't. The police do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe an old fashioned still stick, the batons that whip out. Dude, it sucks, but there's sometimes people that are idiots, but they. All right, so part of my reform is all leg.
I think they need to bring the sap back. You know what a sap is?
No.
It's this piece of leather that looks like a teardrop. It's like this. We'll say it's this big.
It's like a slapper.
Yeah, and it fucking hurts.
That's from the 30s.
It doesn't matter, dude, because you hit somebody with a stick. You have to slide out, whatever. You take a sap and just unhook it, and you can do it all in one wound. You can probably do it too with a slide out baton. But the injuries you can do on that could be more permanent than with the sap. You take a sap and whack someone with it hard enough,
just knock them out, but they'll still live.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Or hit them hard enough. You could give them a massive Charlie horse because it's a ball in there. It's we'll say it's half of it's leather, but it looks like half of a cue ball or something. And then you get whacked with that shit in your leg. You ain't running that fast.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
As opposed to getting whacked with the thing.
So my retrain would be all leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then certain restraints with no kneeling on any point of asphyxiation, chest, torsos. So dude, if you break your arm and you're resisting, guess what? Hey, you're still breathing,
Mm-hmm.
Don't resist,
you should be resisting anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think also body cams should be live fed all day running.
I don't think you couldn't do a live feed. That just wouldn't be technologically possible with the amount of police officers in the world. If you're worried about 5G, then you're going to be worried about live feed running around everywhere around you.
I mean, I think it should be live fed, not for people to watch, but to be recorded by the powers that be.
Well, that's not a live feed; that's a recording.
But
so
if
which
they
one
need
is
to backtrack and find out what happened, they can still get.
No, it should just be recorded. It should not be live fed.
Yeah. All right. So their cameras going all day, right?
Yeah.
On their shifts.
Yeah.
Totally all day, not just turned on 30 seconds before the altercation.
Yeah, it should be on all time.
All day. Mm-hmm. All right, we see what you're doing.
Yeah.
If anyone needs to check out where we're,
yeah,
we can find that.
Yeah.
So all day recording, rubber bullets. I'm still on board with tasers and pepper spray and all that. I'm on board with them having full protection for themselves, and I think constant clinical evaluations, like weekly, would be huge.
I think only after incidences, because if you go to something constantly like that, you're going to find a way to cheat it no matter what. So that really that's going to be,
to me, it's more conversating and finding people with empathy. So
but you're still going to be, but you're still going to be forced into a situation. If you're not someone who normally talks, you're going to be forced into a situation where you're not going to talk anyway. And if you force somebody to talk, they're just going to make up bullshit. So there's ways around it, and I think it should just be in anything that's to do with anything remotely traumatic. Whether it's, that has to do with firing a weapon, but just anything traumatic, you should be I hate using the word forced, but you should be told to take a leave and go talk to somebody. You should not be allowed to keep working and whatever else. You should be told for, a week to go sit it out and figure it out or whatever. Something along those lines. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't just be like, yesterday I saw a kid, with special needs, and he had to be taken from his home because his parents were, were treating him like shit. That's traumatizing. That could be more traumatizing than finding someone getting shot or shooting somebody.
We're saying like shit just because they could be really bad.
Yes,
stories.
I think anything that was going to affect you in your brain, and in any way, you should have to sit there and talk those out. In that sense, I think it shouldn't just be every week if you had a dead look at this little town or any little town around here. How much really happens? Should they have to go every week?
Well, they probably see a dead body every day almost.
But I mean,
with the old age,
and I think that essentially that becomes something like that. I think you 90% become numb to it, where it's just
like the traumatic event.
It's the traumatic version of it. Like if it was a little kid dead body, sure.
Yeah. Or like a horrible motorcycle.
Exactly, like stuff like that.
Shooting.
Yes. I don't think if you had a dead week, it's just like, well, that's kind of a waste of resources.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I feel like. But I also feel that it should take you at minimum of 2 years to become a police officer. I think you should get educated on the law, just the way a lawyer does. Yep. Not to the extent that a lawyer does, but just the way a lawyer does. And not sat there to memorize it, because memorizing doesn't do shit if you don't know what it means. Mm-hmm. You should, it shouldn't be less than a year or whatever it is. You should, there should be some sort of degree beforehand of education or military or something beforehand that shows you that you're willing to put in the work to do that.
Yeah.
It's not like, we'll say a firefighter, where it's a lot physical, and you got to be able to physically do something. Where a cop, it's physical, mental, emotional, all that stuff. Because if you take 2 years, just like college, cut out the bullshit. You don't need the math. You don't need all that stuff. Your classes are de-escalation. Your classes are not dealing. Nothing should be about dealing with people. It should be understanding people.
Yeah.
Go and work at your school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't do a sit-in. Go work at the school. There should be schools, private schools, where where the students are the teachers. So they can work with them. Same thing with criminals. Go to a prison and now you're going to be a CO for 3 months.
Yeah, like a practicum.
And see what it's going on, on all ends. What happens after you arrest them? Then go be spend a week in court as a bailiff. Because bailiff, nobody wants to be in court at all. You know what I mean? Spread them out amongst the state.
Bailiff is probably the sweetest job, dude.
If you enjoy standing there all
That's
day,
what I'm saying.
Fuck it, I couldn't do it.
Easy money, dude.
Yeah, in essence, yeah.
If you could smoke weed and pass the test, think about you're getting a pension.
I love how everything is based on you smoking weed.
Yeah, dude. How easy is that? It could maybe pop off if someone ever tried to come into the courthouse and go crazy, but for the most part, bro, you're seeing nice lawyer butt. You've been to the Woburn Courthouse, got some nice butt in there.
I haven't been there. Last time I've been in Newburyport.
I was doing that small claims for a while in and out of there.
Yeah.
So much nice lawyer butt. So being a bailiff would be sweet. You probably get a healthy check.
But anyway, you should have to go see, and spend. The curriculum should be spent on books and go. And it should not be easy. It should not be. It should be a full-time job at 10 to 12 hours a day to learn these things in school. And then you get practical practice. Yeah. And that's what that's how I think it should be in all those situations.
And then I also think on a military level, you should be put through sleep deprivation tests because they work so much long shifts.
Yeah.
And then be
stress tests.
Yeah.
Physical stress tests. Physical and mental stress tests.
Yeah. And then they have to pass them.
Yeah, and they should all be they should all be shot with tasers, rubber bullets.
Yep.
With and without the vest, just like the military. They teach you how to go through because you're going to be in situations where you throw the tear gas and you got to go into the tear gas.
We're going to hit you with this rubber bullet at like 50 yards away. So enjoy.
Yeah, get the hit with the beanbag round. You know what I mean? Cover the face. All the sensitive parts. But they're going to get waxed.
Like your nuts.
Yeah.
We're going to shoot you.
Yeah, your vagina, your butthole. All those things. Your knees. Whatever, but you should have to go through those things just the same. And you know what you're going to do? Just like the military, you're going to weed out all the bullshit. You're going to weed out the weak people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the best part is, if you find somebody who's, practically can handle people, because the big argument now is that people want to say, well, you take rid of the cops and you got all these people who specialize in these different things to de-escalate things. Well, you know what? How many domestic violence calls do you think go on a day? Well,
so when you...
How come I can never finish my point and you got to jump in?
I jump on things that I know you're going to jump on, which is good. How would you explain, because I'm agreeing with everything that you and I are settling on right now, when someone says, no, I don't want to hear you and him talk about that bullshit because you know what? You have no say now. That's not what we want. I think everything you and I are pitching right now is realistic and valid to bring to the table if we ever had an opportunity to be a politician. Yeah. I think some people would still disagree with this. People are going to disagree with everything because there's people who legitimately believe the police aren't needed. And they think that a social worker can go out and handle everything. And it's not true. And it's not. Do you ever see a social worker? They're typically women. And I'm not taking anything away from women, but they're not trained. They're trained to work with the mind. But every time you have to do something that's extreme, you have to call the police. It's part of the rules, part of the law. Well, because of something. Who can handle the force. You're right. So what are you going to do? Hire bodyguards? You're going to have bouncers? Right. No, that's not how it works. Just mercenaries?
Yeah, because not everything is a mental situation. And you can't de-escalate everybody. You can't. There's people who do go to those things, and try to de-escalate. Even suicide people. People who are suicidal, they still jump at times. When you're trying to talk them off the ledge and you get these specialists.
Chaz, just for an example.
You fucking love this place.
Well, it's the only example we have at the moment. So, let's say there are some people and they're part of the security team that they have in there right now, right?
Yeah.
That guy could have probably had a convicted rape charge, but right now they're allowing him to be the fucking
warlord.
You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not talking about their warlord. I'm talking one of his maybe.
Oh, with the guns or whatever.
One of his peoples.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, just running the street.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the police, if you were a convicted, fucking pedophile, you're definitely gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're like, yo, we're going to allow this
Well, there's
guy.
no vetting. There's no vetting process.
There's no vetting. Yeah, there's no Corey check for these.
No.
And that's what's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Well, that's how they want to run their country, though, so that's fine. I think the whole situation is stupid. I understand their point to an extent, but very, very minutely because it's all the rest of it's stupid.
People do listen to this and try to see what we're trying to say.
Yeah. They either are or they're not. We haven't got to the controversial shit yet. Which would be hour number 2, which we're essentially on. But I think that's a part of it. And the thing is that people would need to understand. Say we had to say, and this is what we chose to do. People got to realize it's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen next year. It's going to take minimum, because of the schooling, the retraining, and all that, 20 years. It really would, because you have to go to the 3 years of school and all the training.
You can do it in 5.
You have to set it up. No, for it to start over, because you still have the veterans. You can't send them all back.
No, but...
You know what I mean? So I'm talking about... Think about it.
Get a new group.
You got everybody here.
And then retrain
the
old.
Then you get... This is the thing. That's the problem. So
it's almost like you gotta need the military to be in here for a second.
Not necessarily. You'd have to sit there and find a way to get the police officers who are there now...
In the academy.
No, yeah. Retrain them in a specific way or retest them.
Analyze every officer in your town, right? Everyone gets analyzed right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so they, like you said, they get audited mentally and financially. Boom. you weed out the system. All right, if these cops are dickbags, all right, we're gonna put you under investigation. You can go file unemployment right now, and maybe we'll get back to you, right? Like a furlough in a manner. Okay. Then once you figure that out, at least you have some people to help police the system for a second. Yeah, but the citizens need to comply with this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work without a peaceful compromise.
Well, it's never going to be 100% peaceful compromise.
Yeah, I mean,
you know that, right? There are going to be people who are always against cops.
Yeah, and that's what sucks. It can't work until you have both sides putting it down to say, all right, we will fix it. We need to do it together.
Yes.
So you got a few police in the system. Well, you got the kids in the academy now. And you say, guys, I know you're supposed to be the graduating class of fucking Yamins, but guess what? New standards are right now. If you want to be a police officer, this is the new standards. You need to finish schooling, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah.
That will also weed out who wants to be an officer or not, too.
Yes.
Because they'll be like, fuck that.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? If I was president, I would even commit to this. If you had hopes and expectations of certain standards, I'll fucking reimburse whatever money you need.
Again, not a presidential thing, but okay. Not a federal thing.
You know what I mean? All right, whatever. You want to leave and no longer go through it because you're not built to be a cop the way we're doing now? I'll reimburse your fucking tuition you paid to become in this academy, all right? Then get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah.
But then you burn your bridge because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You burn your bridge. You can't come back to the force.
Yeah.
Because it's like the military, right? Once if you sign off as a discharge, you can't really go back, right?
If dishonorably discharged, no.
Can you discharge yourself or no?
I guess it depends on the circumstance. Say a parent died, something got sick, or whatever else. I don't know. I don't. Dude, the rules have changed so much over the years, honestly, that I don't even know what they don't accept in the process anymore. I really don't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you discharge yourself and you break your bod, you get to be like, all right, so that's it. You forfeit your right to come back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. You should. You know what I mean? Or you can, I don't know, maybe there's a way you can prove you joined the military, now you're 26 and you're out, you know what I mean? And you realize, maybe that's the approach they want to take.
Right.
Go to the police academy for 3 years, learn this, and this, or join the military for 4 years, and then come here, and now the program's only, 16 months.
Right.
Because we got to cut out a whole half of that program. Now you got to learn the de-escalation, working with these type of people, being a teacher. You know what I mean? You got to learn those things. So now you got to do all that practical stuff, civilian training.
Yeah.
Yes, it should not be as easy as. I remember when I lived in Los Angeles, they used to advertise become a Los Angeles police officer in the newspaper. That's how hard it was to find an LA cop because the reputation is terrible.
It was before I was 36. I was still considering doing it because 36 the cutoff.
What, the military?
No, police.
Oh.
And New York was looking for a shit ton of cops.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about the future and the money and stuff. And I could have even been a CO and got good money, and I just didn't want to do it because I was like, I have so many friends in there. I go, I don't want to. I worked with the kids. Working with kids was totally different. Because you could talk to them a lot more, even though they were still punks. But for the most part, I did well. And I never wanted to work with adults. I was like, no, I don't want someone telling me how long I need to shit. And I got friends in there, and I just didn't want that hassle. And they're like, I can get you a good job, good money. And then
I get you.
I was considering the force before 36, and sometimes I think I should have.
Yeah, we can shoulda, woulda, coulda everything at 40.
Yeah, right. I mean?
But I mean, that's how we do it. I think you and I are pretty much eye to eye on this, and that's probably the first time in podcast history in our lives.
I thought we were gonna really differ on this.
No, I'm pretty much there with you on that, and though we already covered that, we covered Chaz. I don't know why I mentioned school systems. I mean, I guess we can go back to the root of all this to begin with. The other three cops. I think you and I even agree on this. The guy's clearly murdered that cop clearly murdered
George Floyd. 100%.
Yes, and that's thing. And then you jumped in. You gave me information that I didn't know about. Was about their past together. Was it you? Yeah. Then somebody else brought it up to me too. He was
always violent at the nightclub and pepper spraying people.
So there's a conspiracy that goes around that he was murdered on purpose.
To me, he was murdered on purpose.
Now that I'm hearing all the details and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised. It's that
it was over a freaking counterfeit bill, like Dude, just in Woburn alone.
Like, why are you publicizing this? Yeah. They're going to know where you got it from.
How many freaking counterfeit bills were floating in Woburn alone? Like, no one made a big deal when, like, that was only, like, 2 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
There was, like, there's thousands of dollars floating around the town of fucking counterfeit 20s.
Yeah.
Those things are probably still in circulation.
Oh, probably. They probably actually got them out, to be honest with you. But I mean, so either way, it was still murder, and so we'll take the deliberate murder out of there as far as if half, and look at it as what everybody reacted to right off the bat.
I did watch for the most part of the video, but I don't like watching.
Dude, I couldn't get past 4 minutes. Once I saw what was going on, I was like, forget it.
When you know the outcome, I didn't watch the final outcome.
Well, that's what it was. I couldn't get past. I was like, I don't want to see this. Why do I want to see someone die?
I scrolled past some just to see the EMTs that were definitely very fishy as well. Like, to me, they weren't EMTs. They were definitely like...
Proper counterfeiting is not a low-end thing. You and I ain't counterfeiting. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because you would need the plates and the papers and everything.
Yeah. You know? Especially nowadays, if you're going to attempt counterfeiting, you need some shit and you need some money behind you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's essentially,
that was probably like just printed on your HP $20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, but all that aside, all the conspiracies aside, guy was murdered.
Yeah.
Everybody instantly made a race thing, which I think is wrong.
Well, he's immortalized as being murdered on camera for his whole family to always see. I know, and this is what I like about this.
Is this popping in and out of years?
No, not right now. But I see it as an eye for an eye. I believe he should also receive the same outcome that happened to the man he took.
Yeah.
And I know it would never happen. This is just me with the passion. I think it should be publicized as an eye for an eye because, unfortunately, like, this poor man's life was taken on camera. I believe purposely. And that's horrible. And that this guy...
All right, we're not talking about the outcome, Tom. I'm not talking about the outcome of what we think that should happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, it spawned everything.
I think I'm talking about... I'm talking about what the public's reaction to it is what we should go over.
I believe in Minnesota that was the right thing to do. Besides looting, I think burning that station down was a statement. And I respect that statement. Now, you already heard me say I believe we should not defund, and I believe that we should still have the police station. But that happening, and then at first letting it ride for like the few days that it happened until like things got heated, that was the outcome that needed to happen. They definitely needed to say, fuck you, and we're burning this shit down. And I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I can go along with that, but once it got into the craziness of the looting, the anti-this or whatever it became to be, and made it a race thing, I'm not for.
I didn't know Target, we had this talk, was an American company. I had always assumed it was a Canadian company.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't understand the whole Target thing. But the fact that it was founded in that town, right?
Minneapolis.
I respect that, too, just because it's corporate.
But why? I don't. That has nothing to do with anything.
I know.
So why do you respect that?
It's just part of the whole fuck the system part.
But this is my thing.
It made sense at that point.
Which is why it escalated, because people with that thought process were saying "fuck the system," bring down low-income housing, burning down smaller businesses, burning down schools, because that's all part of the system. You can't say "fuck the system," but only part of the system.
Like you're attacking.
That's the thing. But it doesn't matter. You can't say the system and then sit there and go, rioters, fuck the system. But not this part of the system, not this part of the system, because they're not in their right mind to begin with.
The station and the Target still makes no sense, but the station definitely. But as far as like destroying their own neighborhoods was horrible. You can't, like, why are you gonna do that? And that's why it was great to see the videos of the actual people being like, "What the fuck are you doing? We live here. You're gonna make us live even more in shit." And that's the sad part about it. So, like, yeah, if they went down into I believe the protest should always disrupt the system, but as peaceful as possible. I hated when people blocked 93 for their hippie shit.
I remember that.
But if it disrupts the system, like that, and they're not doing crazy shit like throwing fireworks and propane tanks, I think that's good. They should get permits every day because they're allowed to get their permits. Get their permits and do a protest every day just to cause traffic, just to disrupt the system. I think that's awesome.
Fine. I believe in the protesting thing. I don't believe protesting works, but I do believe in, on the most part, it doesn't work. But, and I believe in doing it right. Like you and I discussed this. It's like, get your permit.
Yeah.
Go to City Hall, wherever you want to go. Block the streets off,
Yeah.
Protest.
Yeah.
And don't continue it till nightfall.
So they want to defund, but they also need the police to fucking detail, which makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. And
and then they'll blame the police for not defending them.
Yes, that's why the police are in a terrible situation.
It's in this so crazy
overall thing. But with the thing with the protests is that, and then you loot. So you get it wasn't peaceful protesting because in a sense it might have started that way, but it certainly didn't end that way and turn into that way. And what a lot of people I don't think brought up or even care to see is that they're like, no, there's people protesters and then there's looters. Of course, there's always going to be that.
Minneapolis did not need a peaceful protest. They needed to spark it, and that was good.
But not in the way that they did it. Because you know what you do?
Stations.
Fine, I get it. Do the political thing. Don't go after fucking Target.
I mean, I agree with you on that.
But that's the thing, though. But that's what escalates it, dude. You start off with something like that, and it just goes. That's the hard part. I support the whole thing with going after City Hall and all that stuff. Fine, but the problem is it snowballs, and so it's just like, but do I? That's the problem. Because now I can sit there, well, you don't go after, like, I'm going to do the same thing you just did. You just say, don't do this. Don't. You can't, because they're not in their right mind to begin with. It's a terrible thing to do. But do it during the day, like I said, and end it before sunset. Because what the protests ended up doing, and people knew this, and this is even what the protesters who were there are faking the being protesters. They're waiting until nighttime or the situation where all the cops are in one place, and they can go out and cause a fucking havoc in the other place. And that's why there is a correlation between these peaceful protests and the looting and the riots, because one was masking the other, and one started the other. So you could sit there and say, we were peaceful protests and we have nothing to do with it. But you know what? If I was in that crowd and you saw 1 million people, who the fuck are you to know which one's doing what wrong when you're all blended in together?
So if I see it as today, especially after last night with Atlanta, bro, they need to do an immediate reform right away and take away lethal force, like right away, because that's only making it worse.
But they weren't using lethal force against these rioters in a sense. Nobody died from the cops with lethal force.
But I'm talking about as far as with the officers right now. They have to, because the more bullshit that happens like last night, it's gonna progressively get worse. If they want to fix it, they need to fix it like tonight.
What do you mean? Why is it going to progressively get worse? What's going to get worse?
The violence is going to get worse.
The way people are reacting.
Atlanta, so that happened last night, right?
Yeah.
In Wendy's?
Yes.
Dude, this week is going to be a disaster in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying?
But this is my retort to that. Yes, it's the lethal force thing I have an issue with. In the essence, like we discussed earlier. But this is my problem.
Holy shit.
Why, as a human being, do you feel that you need to burn shit down and cause a riot? Like, what's wrong with you as an individual?
Because they need someone to step in who has the authority to step in and fix it.
But what does that have to do with burning shit down and ruining shit around you? Tell me. Explain that to me.
I don't know.
If you were killed by a cop,
getting hurt.
If you were unjustifiably killed by a cop, the last thing I'm going to really do is run up to Stone Square and fucking torch it.
I dig it.
You know what I mean? It's just like you of course, but I mean but why? What the fuck is that going to do? All you're doing is causing bigger problems.
Yeah.
You are, and you know what you're doing as well by just being there, regardless of what you're doing, but just being there, you're becoming one of them. If you're not the media and you're just there to be there, don't be. Well, what do they always tell us from growing up? How do you not get in trouble? Don't get involved.
Yeah.
Don't even be there. You're only as good as the company you keep.
Is this wrong if I say, but this is sad because it was unified still based off racism. I felt very good and wholesome in America with every race, from Clinton, because Bush, I was way too young to senior, but from Clinton to the first or second year of Obama, and then a lot of racial tension began during Obama's terms. Mm-hmm. And to me, I felt like that created a major divide.
I think on a public scale, yes.
You know, like, I just felt everyone was unified, especially after 9/11, even though the sham that I believe it is. All American ethnicities were unified because we all were wary of who the public perceived the target was.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, fuck that. Together.
I mean,
and America was like, was striving, even though it was during a time of war and stuff, but as far as like Black, Spanish, and white and Asian America, it sucks. It was like the Arabic people got a lot of hits for it.
Was it you and I have a discussion how every decade has their enemy?
No.
I forget who I was talking to. I go, the best way to ever look at who your enemy is by decade is watch what movies are made.
Yeah, and my Russian friend says it's great about the 80s. Mm-hmm. You got like, even though Red Dawn was Spanish, but it was like almost perceived as like Russian, Well,
because it was both. It was Russian with the Spanish working together.
And then Iron Eagle.
And then what happened when they redid? What did they do when they redid Red Dawn? It was the Koreans.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, that's fabulous. I never watched.
Yeah, and the same thing with. Look at who to play the terrorists everywhere. They were Iranian terrorists in the 80s. And they were and all the villains were Russian, or Eastern European.
What's the nigga movie?
Red Heat.
Yeah, wait, and the terrorist in Back to the Future. They
were Iranian.
It's so fire.
You know what I mean? So there's the whole nuclear thing.
Yeah.
So if you look and see by decade, look to see who the villains were.
Yeah.
In the movies. That's as simple as that. And then
it's propaganda.
Yeah. And so, what did we have from 2010 to now?
I think right now, with contagion and quarantine and all these viruses.
No, I think now it's the enemy is each other. That's what it's been since 2010, because that's 2 years, like you just said, after Obama.
But Hollywood's not going to put out any more movies now.
I don't give a fuck about Hollywood and what they do, because they're their own little fucking agenda in a little island anyway.
The new movies, they're holding out on movies now.
Yeah, I don't care. There's plenty of old TV shows to watch.
Well, I love the independent streaming's putting out good content.
Yeah, so it's whatever. I don't give a shit about Hollywood. I haven't watched a Hollywood movie since like the Avengers anyway. So I watch like 3 movies a year from Hollywood that's new.
What's going to be the new villains of the movie? Like you said, ourselves.
I'm curious to see. A documentary is going to make a big pop. I don't know. They're definitely are they going to make white people the enemy? Because that's essentially what they're doing now.
Well, maybe who made it? Was it Key or Peele who made Us? Mm-hmm. Maybe that was a underlying thing, is we are our own enemy.
Yeah, and it's true. And in all essence, that's a communist thing.
Us. He was ahead of the game, kid.
No, I mean, you just see it's not ahead of anything. It started a decade ago. But, I mean, so, like, that's essentially what this all is now. It's just like, it's, like you said, every 4 years. Like, what's that mean? I just showed you every Democrats care about black people every 4 years. And the Democratic Party has controlled the black community for a long, long time. There's a book out there that was written some time ago, and it actually researched why the black community always vote Democrat despite majority of them having Republican beliefs as far as policies are concerned. And I haven't completely read it, but it's an interesting. It goes all the way back before the Civil Rights Movement, and with everything, and it's an interesting historical look on such a thing. And nowadays, it's clear and simple why anybody votes Democrat or Republican or whatever. It has to do with education.
Yeah,
and educating yourself. I mean, people will always blame the leader, the president, and the people who speak the most, specifically the president, regardless of the party, because we don't look at policies. I don't agree with Democratic policies anymore, and I haven't for a very long time. When I was younger, I didn't know any better, because when you're young, you want, it's a fuck the system type of thing, and that's what the Democrats made you feel like. And then you realize it's just like, A, we all need a little bit of law and order. B, as an adult, you need to have like you said earlier, someone for the people, and I've never seen. And this is, even as a non-political person at the time years ago, you never saw a point where people were so anti-American. All Donald Trump had said was, and you don't have to be a Trump honk, you can even dislike the guy, and still be a Republican or whatever else, but all he wanted to do was make America great is all he said. And he's the first president that actually wrote a whole campaign about making this country better. It wasn't about no new taxes. It wasn't about let's take this country down. It was about let's make this country better. And people shit on that. Think about that.
He wanted to put America first.
Think about that. Exactly. And think about the issues that people brought up with that. All of a sudden, just because of who you like, not because of who you are as a person, just because of who you support, you're a racist. Or you're a white supremacist. How ridiculous is that assessment of human beings? And that has to do with education, because you're not educating yourself, historically. And if you want to, I don't like bringing back history. I think it's silly. It's the past. Get over it. Fix it. If you have a problem with it, then don't do it.
Right.
And people, but since the black community likes to bring up history all the fucking time, which is stupid. Man, you know what I mean? Like, imagine if the Puerto Ricans did that, or the Cambodians did that, or the Japanese did that about being in camps. Do you ever hear the Japanese complain about being in camps in America? No, because no one talks about it. We're not taught it in school, but it's a fact, and it was a fact.
I think it should be taught in school, though.
It should be, but it's not. That's my point. I don't care what should anything be.
There were Italian ones, too.
Yeah, and they're all over the place. You know what I mean? But they want to constantly bring up history. They want to rip down these statues. The
statues getting ripped down, if they were leaders of opposing parties, yeah, they shouldn't be praised.
I think, if you take a statue as praise or whatever. I never looked at statues that way. I've always looked at it as a thing that represents something that happened in time.
It should be, if that guy, was it General Lee? Was he the bad dude?
He was a Confederate general.
So, his statue, right?
But dude,
I don't think he should be glorified riding the horse for a statue. It should be General Lee was killed here. You know what I mean?
But, the guy...
And that would be better.
If you look at it from a military standpoint, the guy was an amazing leader.
Right.
You take away what he was fighting for...
They could say the same for Hitler.
Exactly. So
they shouldn't have, a Hitler statue.
But people still praise Hitler up and down to a certain extent. Not the Germans. Germany hate bringing up, but people here to this day still bring them up. So you can is that not the greatest praise you could possibly have? Is that you physically don't exist, your regime is gone, but you are constantly brought up in conversation and compared to?
Yeah, but it's in secret because you can't.
It's not in secret. There's plenty of people who out there call people Nazis all the time just for being a Trump supporter. It is constantly brought up. So that I'm sorry, but that's talking that you're continuing his legacy. Maybe not in practice, but you're doing it in speech.
Making a comparison.
Exactly.
It's like Freddy Krueger only exists if you talk about him.
Exactly. It's true. And that is a good. That's an odd analogy, but it's a true analogy. Yeah. So tell me, is that what's better? A statue that no one talked about? Because I don't talk about a General Lee statue.
But you know what I'm saying? So no, people do because you see those.
No, because we see them now. Did you 10 years ago? Before 10 years ago, you knew it existed. Did you chat about it?
No, but I always made fun of the fact that the Southerns still represent.
This is the Southern.
I've always made fun of the rebel flag for a while.
You always have, and that's a cultural thing, though. But that's not a thing as a whole. You can't sit there. If we as people here in Boston, we hate the Yankees, should they get rid of the Yankees because us in this region hate them?
Right.
You know what I mean? This is there's a certain
the Yankees name could technically not be racist, but it's a classist or something,
Yeah, well, it's a northerner. It's still used. It's a regular terminology. It's still used down there. I don't think it's not an insult.
Yeah.
If you go down south, they call you Yankees because you don't have southern, cultural stuff instilled in you. I don't think. Whatever. People take a lot of shit's insults or whatever else. You can take it as you want. But
what's a Dodger? You got to think of sports names too. Certain these were made from slurs too.
Draft dodger? I don't know.
What was a Dodger?
I don't know. I was talking. We'll make a fucking podcast about all that on a separate day, John. Stop going. No, stop.
Well, no, Redskins.
Stop. Just stop.
It's just still
just
it qualifies in our content.
It has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. Because you know what? Because most American Indians that were actually asked about the Redskins' names don't give a fuck. And they actually like it because it actually reminds people there were Indians in this country. So that whole idea is bullshit anyway. And that's a proven fact.
The Washington Aborigines? Just doesn't ring the bell that well.
It's way too long to say. You know?
It cost a lot of paint to put that in the end zone.
You have to make the font way too small.
Yeah.
It's just... So bringing up the whole history thing, it's just like, what's the point of doing that? Like, fine, take the statues down. Just do it the right way. Sign a petition.
Get it taken down. A rock with a plaque. Here is the plaque of fucking General Lee. He was a Confederate fucking guy.
Fine. I just think it's silly, but that's not the reason. That's not just the reason they're doing it. Because if you had how come you have a problem with it now, but you didn't have a problem with it 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 20 years ago?
The powers that be at them. Like, I hate saying woke, but they are waking up and they're realizing, oh shit, all this stuff is sort of founded off negative manifestation.
This whole country was founded off of what is now considered negative. This is the problem. People are comparing now with the past. You cannot do that.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta then change and come with it.
Yes, but which is fine. You have a problem with it. Do not rip the fucking thing down. Do not cut the heads off of things.
No,
the statues.
Maybe make a museum.
No. Fine.
Take the statue out of the public eye.
Exactly. What I'm talking about, people should not be going and physically ripping them down.
Right. All right. We're going to take the statue out of the public because it's stupid. We're making a museum for American history.
Have them removed. That's it.
Yeah.
Do it the right way. There is a right and a wrong approach to things. Because all you're doing is looking like an asshole. And just like the video I posted of the guy knocking himself out, good. You're an asshole.
So it doesn't just spark from George Floyd. The new stuff is from George Floyd. It sparks from like Trayvon and Michael Brown and all this stuff. Like,
oh, you mean all the people who killed during the Obama administration?
Yes.
And
that's where the divide began. He never persecuted those cops.
You mean a black president didn't care about black lives?
He should have set the tone.
If
like Zimmerman got off during.
Oh, you tell me Democrats didn't care back then?
You know what I'm saying? Like, so Zimmerman got off and is still out in the public. I mean, even though he's protected and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he got off. And that was murder.
No, and it's fine. And what I'm saying is that during the whole Obama administration, this isn't a Trump thing.
No.
This isn't actually an Obama thing.
It could have been.
This is a Democrat thing. Because why is it a problem now but not then?
It could have been dealt with right then.
That's right. It could have.
What was it, 2009, 7 or something? I don't know. 8 and 9. I remember watching like Ferguson and all that stuff live on fucking Facebook.
There's a list. I found a list actually of a lot of the newsworthy ones, I guess you could call them.
Why didn't he address that then and really put the reform?
He could have. Well, where was Black Lives Matter then?
That's when it was formed, right?
2016? 2015, 2016? Coincidence?
No. Mm-hmm. 2016 would be during Trump. I thought they were formed right at Ferguson.
Yeah. When was that?
I'm saying it's like 2009. I think it's somewhere around then. But and again, like those kids were blatantly murdered, and Michael Brown was definitely murdered by the police. Trayvon Martin. He was shot by Zimmerman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't get crucified or held for fucking the murder and everything. It's crazy.
2013. That's what it was.
2013.
Yeah.
So technically second term.
It started after the acquittal of George Zimmerman.
That's second term, right? Is that after or before November?
July 2013.
The first year into second term.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a re-election thing.
Yeah.
Could have made an example out of all of them.
It was just so small, I think, at the time.
And what year was Michael Brown?
2014? Yeah, 2014.
Mm-hmm. And again, horrific incidences that could have been... We could have been in the process right now of what we've said with full reform.
If the Democrats actually cared.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of like a point that no one cares about. And I think it's gone way too far as what people
That's why I'm hoping if this reform happens, during this guy's term, and I'm not a huge, what'd you call it, trunk hunk?
A honk.
All right, I'm not one of those guys, and I see myself apolitical, but I want it to happen under this guy's term because I want him to fucking
prove him wrong.
Give a big fuck you in the face.
Yeah. No, I agree. And
I want the reform. I want these 3 or 4 cops to get fucking crucified and nailed to the wall.
Yeah.
And I want it all to happen under his term.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, but I think this is all part of like the anti-Trump movement on a larger scale. And I don't know why, because it's not like Trump has a say in a lot of these things. And if you watch the media closely, people like this is one that cracked me up. Why isn't Trump, when the protest started, there was a big to do about why isn't Trump trying to get this country together, blah 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 blah, do unity. I go, because the people who are causing this problem are the same people who said Trump was ripping apart this country. So him going out there saying anything was going to get ripped apart anyway, so it wouldn't have fucking mattered. And then what did he do? He took a Bible, walked across the street, and people made up a story about how he got there because they said they used this excessive force to to clear the streets, which wasn't true again. And then when he goes to the church, he holds up a Bible. People made an issue because he didn't pray. Okay, so not the point. And people were more mad at him standing in front of a burnt down church than people were about the burnt down church. Bullshit. So yeah. He's not gonna win regardless. He's not in the public eye to those people. You're not gonna make him happy. And so what was the point of sitting there trying to unify where his people like myself, who are Trump honks, and people who follow him and believe in him and what he's doing, he's already got those people. So to try to get together a bunch of people who don't like him and already said you've been dividing this nation, which he hasn't been, then what would have been the point of trying to unify anybody? Then you have Obama who sit there and acting like he's some god sent.
Does he still talk?
Oh God, he still babbles. He won. He had to. Oh yeah, he put his word out there. That was where like Obama can come out and say Obama was what, sitting in his white neighborhood in Martha's Vineyard, making this point in his $15 million house. You know what I mean? But no, there's no black. That's racism. It's white privilege. Black people can't do anything right. But the $15 million home that the former president of the United States lives in, who's black, doesn't count. Nor does Oprah, every professional athlete, or whatever. We can
a
get
lot of athletes are coming out.
Yeah, it's talking about being oppressed.
No, but also pushing for like the good cause.
I haven't seen that.
You got to listen to sports radio.
Oh yeah, I just listen to hear more stuff in the loudmouths, like LeBron talking about every time he leaves his house he's scared. Bullshit.
Yeah, LeBron's.
He's coming from the guy who supports communism in China. I'm all set.
Well, this is the thing is I saw. One of my buddies had a new pair of Jordans on and very vocal about the whole situation. And in my head, I'm thinking, you're wearing Jordans, and he gives nothing back to the community. If anything, you know what I mean? He never really liked his own community in a manner. And I was like, that's, that made no sense to me.
I mean, we can actually tumble that into the whole white privilege thing and part of the conversation, which I don't think white privilege exists on a systemic scale. Okay, I got to specify that because people are confusing white privilege with an individual treating you better because you're white.
I think it does to a certain bias.
I don't, and I've always said, and I'm glad other people started saying it too, because all you're doing by saying that you have white privilege is saying that you have it better just because of your skin tone, or that your life is better than a black person's, and that's not
I think
right.
If you see like a white lady, compared to like a man of ethnicity, there's going to be a pre-notation on how you're going to approach it.
What do you mean?
I think like an officer would approach.
Don't take out the officer thing. That's making it systemic. Take out this.
Well, for me personally, no. I'm going to see everyone at face value and just.
No, that's you personal, which we know. I'm just saying on a whole scale. So say you take.
I think that comes down to individualism.
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
All right. So if we take the officer thing out. Take the officer thing out.
Show me I will give you examples of what I believe is systemic racism if you want to say there is.
You know, because people think the system is broken, and the system, like we said, is such a large thing. So I mean, right now, in people viewing it as a political system is racist. It's not. Obviously, we had a black president. Okay, that, you know what? Since majority of the people voting in this country are white, proves it's not a racist country, by the way. And it's a system that I think is racist is the education system. And that is the higher education system, because white people get treated like shit compared to any other race in the higher education system. They do. You have to have so much higher standards to get into an equal school than you do as an African American. I don't even like that term, but black person, an Asian person, and maybe not even Asian people for now, but in a Spanish person, and a Native American person, you do. And I saw someone post a meme, and this is one of those people, these woke young people on Instagram that I follow. It posted a picture. You might have seen this. It was a white kid, black kid in court, both of them in court. Both of them had the exact same cases, both same history with crime and whatever else. Black guy got like 6 years in prison. White kid got like whatever. Now here's my issue. But first question I brought up was answered in that thing. So I was like, fine. And does that exist? Absolutely. Was it the same judge? That's my question. Was it the same county? Were the laws different? Because if I get arrested for one thing in Boston, they might let me go. If I get arrested for it in Amesbury, I'm going to jail.
All right.
So that comes into play.
Background check, records.
No, that was the same background check and everything on that particular thing. Okay. Yeah, that's what the situation supposedly was. But then you have the judge. Big, huge difference in judge. Okay? And there's a lot of other things you got to bring into it. But fine, I see what their point is. But then I can bring up the same thing. John, straight A student, 4.4 GPA, wants to get into Harvard. Lisa, she has a 3.6 GPA. Different neighborhood. Inner city neighborhood, does, average SAT score. You had, a 50, I don't even do SATs anymore, but you had a 1,500 out of 1,600. She gets in. You don't. And she gets in for free. Now you don't get in at all, let alone having to pay. Because now you have to go to Yale instead, God forbid, but you have to pay for Yale because you can't get grants or loans, even despite the fact that both parents have the same income, because all the money is going to go to Lisa instead because she's black. How's that not systemic racism?
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm not even making that up. That is true.
For inner city grants.
Sure, no, that makes sense. But say you happen to live here.
Yeah.
With a single mom or dad, your income's $36,000 a year, because you have Section 8, but you happen to live in Stoneham. Someone in Dorchester, say they make $45,000 a year, but they live in Dorchester, but she has 2 kids, so the money's going to be run dry a lot quicker. But they get the grant. You know what I mean? That's the truth.
If the grant's not coming from my pocket, I'm not going to hate on people getting money.
No, I don't hate on that. But I'm saying it's just but this is all piece of paper comparisons. Yeah. Because we all have to check that stupid box that I hate checking, and I always have, that asks you about your race.
I say Italian.
I typically don't check it.
Bro, I gotta do one of these puppies, dude.
You're terrible. You're a fiend. We have a drug addict in the house, by the way. So we're gonna get to, when we get to the drug addict edition someday. We'll sit down. I'll bring in a couple of drug addicts, see what they talk about, share their stories. You do the whole thing. We'll take a break. We're gonna take a break, folks. I'm gonna end on my burp. All right, we're back. The fiend had to do his thing, and I had to vacuum my car anyway for a moment. So anyway, so back to the school thing real briefly. I've had this back and forth with a couple of friends of mine about the systemic racism and all this stuff. And like I said, I guess in certain instances it does. And, I don't see the disadvantage that on a systems basis that people are pointing out without, further context. Anybody can say anything on the outside, like that, those 2 photos that I was explaining earlier about the two criminals.
And there's a lot of more story that has to go along with those things. And you can't keep feeding that to people. And so as part of it, propaganda, to sit there and try to convince people that there is a bigger problem than there actually is. And that people are making a bigger issue out of something that's not the biggest issue as big an issue as it sounds. I'm sorry. You can be offended. You can hate me for thinking that or whatever else. But it's like, why is it always just a black people thing? And it's just, it doesn't make sense. It's like people always say, saying Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that other lives don't. Well, no one's saying that Black lives don't matter, and that's my issue. Nobody's saying that. Find me the quote, the video, the fucking publication, whatever, where that one person specifically says Black lives don't matter. So, or prove me wrong. It doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. And so when people get bent out of shape on the retort that all lives matter, and there's racism here and racism there, and it's just like, dude, racism's not going anywhere as long as there's multiple races. Racism isn't going anywhere as long as you keep identifying everybody as races.
I think it can go away, though.
I don't think it can, because you're not. It's a human nature thing. Because this is the problem why racism won't go away, and this has something to do with culture as a whole and where the times are. People are finding reasons to be offended. It's as simple as that.
You want to know where this is just after my recreational break that we just had came to me? Racism could be abolished with what the majority of the people are also opposing to. You ready? New World Order, one world government.
But you're saying that it's a political issue. Racism is a political issue.
Listen, yeah, because if you're all held, everyone's held at the same equal standards globally. You know what I'm saying? Globally. If you're going to reform globally, then racism will be abolished.
But you're talking about a whole world getting along. That's never going to happen. So racism will never be abolished because it's a social issue. It's not a political issue. It's not. It becomes a political issue, but it starts socially. It's because it's about what you believe, what I believe, what my neighbor believes, what other people believe, how they were brought up culturally, how they were brought up by their family. That's where it comes from.
If we're all at the point, like no one knew when the Enlightenment was going to happen, or any of that, like the Renaissance or any of that. So it just happened. It took, like you said, a couple years of build up, and then finally they were like, "Fuck it, we're changing it." We're at that point. We're at breaking point now. It's time for drastic change right away.
Which would be what? How can you socially get people to?
It sucks. Like now after having this little break in this talk right now, it sucks that people who are like, "Oh, F the system, NWO, blah, 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 blah." But in reality, to make a utopia, that's what you're fighting against.
Dude, don't ever use that word utopia because it's never going to exist.
But but that's what you're fighting against. If they're trying to create a one world government, right? Then why are you fighting it?
I don't know. I'm not talking about that though. A one world government. It's not a conversation.
To abolish the racism. I believe it would be abolished if everyone globally was held at the same standard. So let's just say you got people in Lower Asia, people in Northern Asia.
Which is why I'm saying it will never happen, John. That's all I'm saying. It will never happen. It will never happen. Because we can't even get a country the north of us to believe the same things we do. You think it's going to happen worldwide? Absolutely not.
Us and Canada are almost on the same lines.
Absolutely not. It's not going to happen at that level. It's not. So that proves my point. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have a one world government. You're not. As long as there's people with egos and money, it's never going to happen.
There'll always be a rebellion.
The only way that essentially something socially you can get rid of is if people start talking to each other and stop fighting with each other. People need to sit down and across from each other and understand the world of a Southerner. The world of a black Southerner, the world of an inner city Southerner, or an inner city black, or the world of an Asian person. You need to understand everybody, and everybody needs to go out and immerse themselves in these things and have a dialogue. A white person can't
go into an inner city neighborhood as an outsider and be, and people don't go running to him saying, oh, you're great. It doesn't happen. Because that's racism in itself in a black community being against white people. Because black people, yes, I'm sorry, but they can be racist too. I don't know where that theory comes from that they can't be. Because that's just the biggest bogus bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
So I've tried to research that, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. I would wish we had comments and phone calls.
Oh, I lost the phone number, so we need a new one.
You lost the phone number?
Yeah.
Oh, man. See what happened to the Rona? Rona took it all out. What was the last question?
I was talking about white people in the neighborhood of black people and saying that black people can be racist.
Oh, the racist thing. What do they call it? They call it reverse racism.
No, it's racism.
It's racism, yeah. It's just in general. And what I've come back was that they can't be racist because they didn't create the racism. And racism was created by the Angolans. So how can they be something that they didn't create? And then I hear that to a degree, but then it's just, I like to just call it hatred instead of racism.
Yeah, that's fine. And that's exactly what
Let's just take the whole race out of it, and you can teach hatred.
And this is the problem, is that if you keep having groups like called with a title Black Lives Matter, then race will always be looked at. Sorry, that's just the way it is. And if you keep doing it as a black person asking a white person to get down on their knees for you, which is ridiculous and demeaning, to kiss your feet or do whatever, it's not going to end. Because for all the white people who sit out there and feel like these movie stars or whatever else, whoever they are saying that they feel guilty for being born the way they are. How fucked up is that? We're supposed to live in a world where you're supposed to accept who you are, and now we're sitting there. There's a group of people of people in the black community saying that in order for you to feel better about yourself, we're going to put you in a position that we feel that we are in, which makes no fucking sense. It's fighting fire with fire, which is stupid.
So, what do you have on the agenda? I have something I want to...
Just go. You like to bounce all over the place anyway.
Let's talk about the whole kneeling and standing thing.
That's fine.
I'm on board with both. I think
kneeling at a person's feet because of their race, you're for. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the submission. Kneeling for the flag, I'm okay with either or. I think they should both be acceptable. And
they are acceptable, but people not on 100% scale. People aren't gonna. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. It shouldn't be done during a game.
I think it's more respectful than sitting down.
And I think it's just as disrespectful as...
You're still doing an action to acknowledge that it is something. You know what I'm saying? You're acknowledging the power of it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, fair enough. I can see that. But I don't see...
So I
don't see it necessary because it's not... The issue they're bringing up has nothing to do with the flag.
If you're sitting down, got your helmet on, shooting the shit with your buddy on the bench, and you're like, fuck this, fuck it, that's the disrespect. If you're actually... one standing with your hand over your chest, or if you're one kneeling, to pay homage for the injustice, I'm okay with either one of them. You're still making a statement, no big deal.
But I think the statement is chosen wrong, personally. It's not, has nothing to do with the nation. If you're trying to find out
it's what the injustice is the consequences that happen on these major cases, like Brock Turner alone. White kid caught raping the girl in the fucking alleyway. He got 6 months, dude. And he's still trying to advocate for himself to fucking be taken off the fucking sexual predator list. That's the thing. I Donald Sterling. What was he? The Clippers. These guys still get commissions and pensions even after they got dismissed for certain actions of themselves. It's the consequences that piss people off.
Yeah.
And those need to be fixed.
But it's not an America thing. That's a problem with those individual things.
Well, it's because they have money and privilege.
Yes, but you're trying to make something as a whole involve something that you're blaming something that has nothing, as I can see, to do with it.
I'm thinking OJ got off because of money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, he got off because most of the people in the jury were black.
Did he get a retrial?
No. You can't once the case is over, you can't go back to court.
Convicted on the civil trial.
Yes.
And then he had to pay all his money out.
Doesn't matter. You don't necessarily have to pay it. So he didn't pay it.
We've talked about it, and I'm sidetracking. I like OJ. I think he's hilarious. Him on Twitter is funny as fuck. Doing his sports reviews. He's got no sports to talk about now.
So, I mean, your love for murder is fascinating. I appreciate it.
Convicted.
He was convicted in civil court. And everybody knows he did it, and that's just a ridiculous thing.
Book.
That is just a ridiculous thing.
It's like, well, it's the same thing with like in DT. I think he's hilarious. If he was a battle rapper, he'd be the GOAT. He's the battle rapper of the presidency. He's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but he wasn't convicted of murdering somebody, so I mean, that's fine.
I hear you. I dig it.
And I mean, the whole idea that you put these people up on pedestals is ridiculous. And they can go back to, which is funny because you can sit there and go, well, look at the statues and all that stuff. Fine. I get it. You know what? Again, those were actions made in the past. Stop living in the past. Yeah. Fix it. Like you said, build a museum, put them all in there. Fine. Take them down, but do it the right way. But still now, you're still putting them on pedestals. So if you don't want us to put them on pedestals, why do you put criminals on pedestals? Rappers, rapists, athletes. You wear their shirts, maybe not all of them. You wear their shirts, you support them. Or rappers who talk about drugs, misogyny, using the N-word all the time. You know what I mean? You support that. Where's the outrage on that right now? It's not there. You still use the term white rappers this, white basketball players that. It's not going to, too. So that's not going to go anywhere as long as you keep using the terminology. Yeah. So it's, again, dialogue issue. And
that's why I try to...
There's a hypocrisy in this.
So even with special needs, I try to put the person before the disability. And so when it comes to color and race, I try to say athletes or whatever they are, mechanics.
Well, that's what they are. I mean,
I'm not going to say the black mechanic.
Unless you are painting a story, you're not going to mention race.
Right. But so in general, I'll be like, go see the mechanic down at the golf. Yeah. Not even going to put his ethnicity on.
Yeah, you're not going to say the Pakistani guy, or the Lebanese guy, or you're not. You're just going to say go down there, like you said, and that's the problem. Unless you're painting a picture, then whatever. I mean, if there's a situation where we all know there's going to be a majority of white people, I'm just going to say look for John. He's Italian. He's a chubby guy. He's probably got a big goofy grin on his face and has paint all over his clothes. I'm not going to mention his race. But if it's a majority white place and they're going to tell him to look for the black guy, go look for the tall black guy. You know what I mean? If there's going to be telling you to look for the Asian guy, everybody says look for the tattooed Asian guy.
Well, the best is if if they're looking for someone and they go, so what was this color? And you go, I don't see color.
Yeah, right.
Was it male or female? I don't assume gender.
Yeah. Well, good. So, if anybody in your family goes missing, we'll just look for a person.
Yeah, it was a person wearing clothes.
Yeah. And since I don't see color, I don't know what they're...
on the clothes, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Blue shirt.
But no, you don't see color, so they're wearing a shirt. I got that.
Yep.
It's in the description.
They had stuff on it.
Yeah. There were squiggly lines. It's just... obviously, there's certain circumstances we use it. That's fine. You know what I mean? And even then, I'd use a lot of derogatory terms and references and stuff. Does it make me a racist? No. And herein lies the problem with people. That racism turned from black people eat here and white people eat there. Black people sit there. White people sit here. Black people drink from this fountain. White people sit in this fountain because the law says so. And that's what racism is. Mm-hmm. Right? Racism is a direct hate and separation that does not exist right now. We do not live in a world where black people do not have the same rights that I do or you do. We do not. I said black people do not live in a world where they do not have the same rights that I have or you have.
I don't see it that way, though.
Give me any law that tells me a black person can't do something.
No, there's not physical law.
Exactly. So it's
how when people say, those unwritten rules.
But that's a social thing again. That's another individual thing or whatever it is in that specific group. That is not a legal thing. That is that person's choice. And
that's what we're here saying we're going to reform.
And the only way we can reform it is we're going to talk about it. But my problem is to stop blaming the government in thinking that you do not have a right. There are plenty of success stories on every race across the spectrum in every country, and specifically this country, of successes for every race.
So just sit there and why don't you turn around and ask them how they made it? How did Obama become president of the United States? How did that black governor become the governor? How did that black mayor become mayor or chief of police or any of that stuff? So rather than sit there and saying that you can't do it because you think so lowly of yourself, you're going to blame other people and your skin tone that you couldn't make it when there's people literally in your community who have made it and who are millionaires and billionaires and all that stuff. There is no excuse, none whatsoever. You made a shitty decision. You were brought up like shit. And you decided to sit there and continue to bring yourself up like shit rather than turning it around and making something of it. This is because that's a white person thing, a black person thing, an Asian person thing, a Spanish person thing, a fucking transgender thing. It's an everything. It's an everybody thing. You need to sit there and, granted, you might be at a disadvantage if you grew up with a one-parent home. I get it. You know what I mean? But you're at a disadvantage. You still have the same rules still apply. Yep. You can do whatever you want to do. You just chose not to.
So I think as far as socially, everything's pretty balanced. As far as against blue, there is a difference.
What do you mean blue?
Against the police for them. Yeah. There's a difference with that. And maybe in the judicial system as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
But still, it's still brought down to an individual thing and where you're located. It really does. If I never witnessed it myself, then I wouldn't believe it. But it really does. And what we all end up doing is, and we do it when we're younger, we do it before we know better and understand or know people in the situation, whatever else, we group it all together, which is ridiculous in itself because the whole point is not to group people together, but the people are still grouping cops is all the same. And we know better than that. We know better than that. Yeah. But yet you're going to sit there and say, fuck the police and fuck this, that, and blah, 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 blah. No, fuck LAPD. That's where that came from because they're fucking scumbags. And to this day, they're still scumbags because they didn't learn their fucking lessons. You know what I mean? I'm sure the NYPD has the same thing. I'm sure the Boston cops, I'm sure the Stoneham cops, I'm sure every cop system somewhere has a faction of people that just suck dick. And they suck. And they're terrible. And they just ruin it for everybody else because that's all it takes is that people, that person or whatever, to ruin it for everybody else, whether it's just locally or nationally or worldwide. And that's just the way it works. And it sucks. Now, if race was really a thing to people, then it would just be, borders wouldn't exist. You would care about the black people in every country. You'd care about the white people in every country and all the Asian people in every country. You'd care about those cultures, but they don't here. They don't. We grew up, most of us knew where our families came from. Nowadays, because we were one, like your mom straight off the boat, my mom straight off the boat. You know what I mean? Same with your dad. And a lot of our family, we're literally like first generation Americans, you know, and we've gotten away from that over the years of, yes, we know what our heritage is, but we're not connected to it anymore because the North Ends are shrinking. You know, and the Irish pubs are going away, and the English pubs are going away. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the classic Chinese restaurants are going away, and Chinatown is shrinking. And all those things they're all dissolving.
I see those things expanding.
They're dissolving. They're not the classic versions of everything. You know, that's what I mean. You know, you don't get the classic when you go. I mean, I don't go to the North End. I don't really like Italian food, but it's probably shrunken down a little bit because there's a Starbucks now there on Atlantic, which is ridiculous. That's not the same. You know, that's not even evolving. You know, that's just bullshit as far as I'm concerned. You're taking away from literally a few city blocks that had a wonderful heritage that I liked going to when I was younger because you were Italian and a lot of my friends were Italian heritage and I could learn from that. That stuff's shrinking away. That's what I mean by that. They might be having still places moving, but now you don't have a section, just a section. And yes, obviously you're segregating yourself by having those sections and whatever else, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Evolution is moving out of things.
And I think that everyone should be embracing it. Yeah,
I mean, it's not like they're saying only Italians live here. You know what I mean? But it's an Italian community, you know, and the culture is embedded in it. And there's nothing wrong with that because when people from other countries move here, like Framingham, how much many Brazilians are in Framingham? You know, Portuguese are in Fall River. They all just, Fall River. So they all just go to these certain areas. That's just the way it is.
Judgmental people are the Portuguese.
Judgmental people.
I was going to call it on the radio and be like, look, I know a big chunk of, Massachusetts Portuguese culture is definitely pretty racial with their judgments.
Well, here's the thing. I think naturally we were all judgmental. It's all built into us. We all look everything up and down. We do. We look up every building we look at. We look up and down. If you were to go to this restaurant, it's fucking amazing, but you never heard of it before. You and your wife go, and I go, but go here. It's in the middle of fucking, we'll say it's in the middle of Compton, right? In this beat up old building because it's speakeasy type of thing, and that's the way they wanted it. Would you walk up to and go, where the fuck am I?
Yeah.
You would judge the neighborhood.
Am I getting shot?
Exactly. Because naturally that's what we do. Does not mean you think that every black guy is going to kill you because you're in a black neighborhood. Or you could be in the Hispanic part of fucking whatever. You're in the brown part of Los Angeles, we'll say. Doesn't matter where you came from.
Well, I mean, all right, so let's use like Southie or Charlestown.
No, I'm just saying that because
this could be white on white crime, right? If you're in one of those two areas, like if you're on D Street and you're not from D Street, like myself, I couldn't walk down there myself without getting beat up by a bunch of like fucking 15 Irish kids ready to go. Mm-hmm. Being Italian looking at all right now today.
Yeah.
I don't know how that.
But that's not what I was talking about. I'm just saying you talk about judging. When you just go, we're all gonna naturally prejudge our situations. Yeah. Whether it's the way the person is dressed, we don't give a shit the skin color. You can have a white guy dressed as a fucking a homeboy walking down the street, or a biker. Yeah, I'm still gonna go assess upside down. The difference is do you hold people to that judgment? That's the difference.
Me just saying that, I think the statement would come across a lot better and I think it's already in the process too, if all color gangs, like all the colors, I'm talking like red, blues, and greens and stuff, if they literally unify, that would help the statement too. If they put down, because that way there's no murder over a fucking bandana. You know what I mean?
John, you're asking for things that are likely not going to, in an ideal situation. And we don't live in an ideal world, so it'll never happen. Speaking in those type of hypotheticals are a waste of time, because that's what we wish we could have, but it's not going to happen in all reality, at least not now or anytime soon. We need to address the world in essentially real time, which would be a 10-year window. But yes, that would make sense. But you know what? They've been saying that since the fucking 70s. Yeah. And it's not because it's people you get. If you're in a gang to begin with, you're not getting through those people that easily.
Gang.
You know what I mean? And so the racism that exists today it's going to be there, but a lot of it's forced right now. A lot of it is finger pointing without evidence. It's assumed. Yeah. And it's a disgrace as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that, a black person or an Asian person such as myself can support, we can be Trump supporters, but be told that we're racist just because we support Trump, like I brought up earlier, is ridiculous.
Well, they'll say like, oh, he's confused.
It's dumb. That's you're making an assumption about me that makes no sense. You know what I do in those situations? You're not with those people who already have their mind made up. But anytime I found myself in a situation, I always have since I was younger, and I started getting tattooed, having crazy hair, or getting bigger from lifting or whatever else, and already looking a little bit different. I just proved people wrong. You know what I mean? Like people, if those people gave me the time, like whether it was a parent, like your mom, or your dad, or some girl I was dating, and their parents, they sat down with me for a few minutes. I do my best to be like, and I don't purposely do it. I just be me, and show them that whatever you perceive me as is not what because I know what I'm perceived as. I roll with it sometimes, and I use it to my advantage. But I know in all reality, that's not who I am, and not or what it is, Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. So that's where the dialogue needs to come in. If you are not this gang banging asshole, fucking inner city cocksucker, whether you're black, white, Spanish, or whatever, then prove people that you're not that.
Yeah, right.
Don't go walking around a certain way, when you approach them. Shake their fucking hands. Don't slap it up, down, sideways, and, clench fists and all that crap.
I like that.
But that's not But that's not a universal thing. That is my point. Like go with what's universal. That
sort of comes universal to me.
No, that becomes natural to you. That's different, and that goes with the world that you're in. Yeah. But you're gonna go in a corporate world and do that because you don't know. If you met some guy out and
like shake the head, it's all right. We're gonna put you on the team.
He's gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like I do that. I always hated that shit. I've always been just a shake hand person.
It comes so natural to me.
But that's, again, that goes with the social world that you're in.
The dap handshake, right? Boom.
Never been my thing. I've always hated it. I think it's stupid. I don't know what's wrong. If you're just going to touch somebody, either hug them, kiss them, or shake their fucking hand. That's it. And that's fine. That's just me. I'm just classic that way. I don't mind that people do it. Me personally, I think it's stupid because it's not me. So when it's brought upon me, I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm just like, dude, just shake my fucking hand.
Yeah, I'll still give a little fist pump with some glitter, too.
Yeah, you do. Sure. Fine. Whatever. But it's just, I found more success in greeting people universal because when you go to other countries, all they expect is a handshake.
Yeah.
If at all, unless you're in Asia, of course. But if you go somewhere, but even then they'll invite you in respect that you shake hands in your country. But I got to do it the other way because I'm not in my country. So like it's worked well for me in that sense that that's a universal thing, and I keep it universal with everybody. Because if you go, my boys, we do this, and then with these people I do that, I think that's separating again. Mm-hmm. Me being somebody who at 13 years old, first time he ever been witnessed people judging him on a bigger scale and having old people locking the doors as I walk by blew my mind. But I'm like, I expected it.
Talking to like people I grew up with, like the more famous local runner that we had, and then the football guy on my team. I'm not trying to put the names out there. Yeah, I talk to them on Facebook all the time. I do see where in our high school there was a lot of like, it wasn't racist, but we were so judgmental as people. Like, I watched the older kids. I flash back and I think about like with older kids.
But we all were, in a sense. But we never. Like I said, at least with our group of people, and even in my class, we didn't hold people to that. Yeah. Still hung out with them. Still would call them. Yeah. Whatever else. So, we didn't necessarily use it against them. I mean, I think maybe on a stereotypical way, of course we do. We all do with stereotypes. But like I said, the difference is when you hold people to those judgments is what makes it right or wrong, I guess you could say. And like, don't hold, like I've seen people hold, I've been called the most horrendous things to my face. And I'm just like, I say to myself, I can't believe they said that. And I go, you know what, but they say that. And I don't take offense to it. I get confused by it more than anything. Be like, what the hell did they do to you? You know what I mean? But it doesn't ruin my life. It doesn't ruin my fucking day. Because this is one less person I need to care about in this world is how I ever look at it. And if we, as a whole, can stop educating and bringing up our children to believe certain things, then it makes it a lot easier. And we're at the cusp of that part of growing up where the kids of the 90s, the teenagers of the 90s were integrated so much that we're not raising our kids to be that way. Yeah. And that takes time. It takes a generational thing, 20, I guess you'd say it's every 10 years, but 20 years, because of when people are having kids now. So if it's going to clear itself, it's going to take until that whole generation are adults, you know what I mean? In grandparents themselves. So it can keep tumbling and rolling and it can fade away because it's going to have to fade away. Because now we're at the stage where we're explaining what the racism is because they're confused. It's like, we weren't brought up that way. What is this that we're talking about? But they're still in communities where it's viewed that way. I asked black friends this week, I go, are you guys really taught to hate cops? And they all go, fuck yeah, we are. That's ridiculous.
I mean, what's funny is my kids are afraid of the cops too.
Why?
Just because they seen when they would always come down our neighborhood, and like I said, there was
down there.
There was no racism in the neighborhood.
Did you tell them to? Did you explain to them that what the situation was?
No, I just let them know. Like, I go, not all cops are good.
But rather than just saying not all cops are bad, you said not all cops are good. Do you see where the difference is in that? I'm not saying what you did was wrong because they can learn out of it. They're still young. You can learn out of it at any age. But it's those little things that us ourselves have to be aware of what we're saying. It's like
they know to go to the police when they need to, like if there's strangers and all that. My kids know what's right and wrong, but they are sort of afraid of police.
But fear is taught, John.
If I got pulled over, they would probably start crying.
Yeah, because fear is taught. And somehow, in some way, in your wording, you might not think you're saying it, and I might not think I'm saying certain things, and then we really sit there and think back, go, fuck, I probably could have worded that a little differently. Yeah. And those stick, especially now when they're so young and they're learning everything, and sucking it and absorbing it all in, and that's like what the problem is. In essence, you are teaching people, purposely or inadvertently, your children to dislike, a certain group of people, which is police officers. Yeah. And you can't do that. So you're already at a disadvantage.
They need to change that perception.
I'm sure plenty have tried. Like I said, I've had bad experiences. You know what I mean? And like, I don't have that possession.
Here I am saying I don't want to defund, and I like the police officers that need them, but I also still am very.
But again, it's a very personal thing.
At this current state, I'm still wary of.
But since the police issue is so big on the spectrum, it's to get people to change that. It can't happen again at 100% whole. It becomes again another social thing where you have to take responsibility as a parent in a community, to do it. So if the cops say, like we do, we know we go next door to Reading, they suck, but we stay in Stoneham not because we're local. It should be, I'm sure it's part of it, but they don't harass me. Boston cops, I've been pulled over by Boston cops a few times. They've been great to me. Been pulled over by stadies. I think we have the best stadies in the country, in all honesty. Of all the places I've ever driven, been pulled over by stadies, Massachusetts is hands down the best group of stadies. One of the funniest
stories is I was driving on the highway with the wife, and I think I was going like 80 in the fast lane.
Oh, so you were breaking the law. That's a good start.
Then I got a car coming up my ass, flying, and they're flashing their lights, and I'm like, I'm going 80. Fuck them. They can go around me. They're still up my ass, flashing and flashing and flashing. And she's like, just get over. I go, I'm fucking speeding. So I go, all right, fuck it. I get over. Big ass middle finger. Blue lights go on. They were literally up my ass for a couple seconds, like it was like they were busting my balls, I thought. Yeah. So I was like, fuck this. Like, he could have put on the blues then. I would have got way the fuck out of the way. Yeah. But he was riding my ass, flashing. I didn't know who he was. So I pull over, and he's like, yeah, you fucked up, buddy. and I go, how do I know you're an officer? I was like, you were right up my ass. I go, you should, He goes, I was trying to get someone ahead of you without them knowing I was a cop. Right? And then he's like, something happened on his radio, and he goes, you're lucky night, kid. And he fucking just took off and flew. No ticket, nothing. But I gave him...
Why didn't you just move?
The wife told me to move because I was road rage. I was like, I'm already speeding. Why is this guy at my ass? I didn't know who it was.
I mean, regardless of a cop or whatever else, I don't know why you just don't move. Especially if it pisses me off. I get it in the morning at 5 o'clock going to work all the time. And it's just like, whatever.
It's so funny, dude.
But, I mean, either way, he probably wasn't going to give you a ticket, though. He probably just said you fucked up so he could just sit there and fuck with you at that point. But, in fact, you got him in a bad mood.
Yeah, so funny. He was like, I was trying to get a
perp.
I didn't want to let him know because I was like, dude, you should have fucking flashed your jets. And then he was like, oh, you're so lucky. And he just got in his car and took off.
But I mean, it's like, but I have the most respect for them, and like I said, I've had bad instances with plenty of police officers, I obviously haven't been shot at or anything like that, but I've been accused of many things. And it's just, it is what it is, dude. Because I blame that cop. I don't blame the police station, but it has to be a community thing. If you want to reform your identity, the police as a whole in that community has to go out and they try to do that too as well, but
like when they come around with the Santa gifts and shit.
But you know what? All it takes to change that is since like say someone on this block. Well, I'll say even in white suburbia like this on this block, a cop fuck with my neighbor. You know what I mean? We might have the best relationship as far as the community is concerned. But now the smaller community within that community, which would be the street, the cop did some fucked up shit down there. People are gonna start saying bad shit about cops again in that little area, possibly. It only takes one or two.
Yeah.
You know, and then they got to overhear your neighbor's got to. You got to hear my neighbor. My little kid's got to hear my neighbor talking about it, bitching about, it, telling their little girl who's going to tell my kid. You know what I mean? And that's why it's not going to be 100% possible to do that.
Body cams need to be active.
That's nothing to do with that.
It does. No, you can see if he's fucking with the guy.
But either way, it doesn't matter because that's still not going to do anything as far as changing the perspective.
If that guy says this cop's fucking with me, they're going to go back and backtrack it.
And that's fine, but that doesn't change that it happened. Even if it didn't happen, what that community, what that specific person in that neighborhood thinks of them, because they're always going to feel like they were fucked with. If they're held
accountable, then they got to go.
Dude, when the Ferguson thing happened, and Michael Brown or whatever his name is was proven that whole thing was a lie, did that change the perspective on anything?
What happened?
The whole thing, they said, hands up, don't shoot. He had his hands in the air, and that wasn't true. It was a complete fucking lie, and there was proof of it. And black
people. Break it down to me.
Dude, he turned around, rushed at him, put his hands under his sweater like he had to pull something out and shoot the cop.
Trayvon?
No, Michael Brown, the one in Ferguson, in Missouri.
Who's the one with the cigarettes? That was in New York.
I don't know. I'm talking about the one that started the whole Black Lives thing back in 2014 to begin with. Hands up, don't shoot was a lie. That's my point.
I gotta go.
And that didn't change the perspective of this at all. None of it. The fact that it was proof it was a lie, the fact that even black people said it, his own friends said it, that it didn't happen, it didn't change any of it. None of it. So that's my point. So even when there's a lie out there, that one small community can just change all the good that they try to do. And that's unfortunate. So it's gonna be constantly an uphill battle. And as long as we keep teaching our kids that, rather than saying, you know what, that was a one bad incident, it sucked.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you now get pulled over and you're afraid, make sure it's being filmed, right? Comply. Don't say anything that you don't need to say. Just say, this is who I am. I want to talk to my parent or my lawyer. That's it. And just boom. And it should... people will come get you.
Here's the crazy part about that. I mean, you should do that anyway, and you should do that with your ex-girlfriend, who's fucking crazy, But the crazy part is that people really think there's a huge percentage of this shit happening, and there's not. It's such a tiny 0.0001% of these instances and altercations actually happening. It's God honest truth. If you take the amount of calls the cops go to on a yearly basis in any community, the percentage is going to be low.
I brought up the issue. I go, I'm not trying to pull any buttons. We're just talking math here.
Push buttons or pull buttons?
Or whatever. It doesn't matter. And if I could... I didn't want to stir the pot, but I go, all right. I go, the math shows there's twice as many, white people shot by cops than, any other race that's being up there. Then they said, well, that's because the population.
But that's already brought into consideration on those stats.
No, I don't think so.
They are brought into consideration on those stats.
It says how many are dead. I don't think it's a statistic.
No, it's mathematically they figure out those statistics based off of.
So if there's 60% Caucasian population,
yes,
and then the other 40 is broken up by the other ethnicities, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to somehow scale it.
Yes, there's a scale. There is a scale thrown into there.
You sure?
Yes.
I made sure I researched that because that's one of those skewed numbers.
Because I just saw the numbers that he said that's also there's 60% more people.
That's the one fact that those people who try to make that fight against that try to bring up, and it's not true. If you look at the FBI numbers and those numbers, they bring it all into consideration.
I would like to see the scale broken up.
Well, you can also look up this too. You can also look up if you want to go by numbers as well. It's 570,000 black on black crime. Was it black on black crimes? There's 50,000 black on white crimes. There's 570,000 black on white crimes. There's 50,000 a year. This is a year. White on black crimes. Tell me what the discrepancy is in that and those numbers. Then if you only make up 12% of the population, but you're committing 10 times more crimes against another race.
And that's why I said the statement would be much valid if they put their flags down and unify.
What do you mean?
Like the gang flags.
Doesn't necessarily have to be the why. So now you're saying it's skewed because it's the
turf.
But what's
I would say it's
how are those numbers skewed by gang stuff?
It's territory and turf, as I would see it, like in Chicago alone, like their
but
street run.
Again, you're asking for something that's not going to happen.
It could happen. I think that would.
No,
that's very possible,
dude. Like I said, as long as there's power, you might have the East Side Crips and the West Side Crips getting together, but you're not going to have the Hispanic community get together with the Black community
because
get together.
Racial divide,
and those are gangs. So you can't sit there and lay flags down and sit there and assume that that's how it's going to work. There's not.
Yeah, because the Latin community also has very high racial judgments too.
Yeah, and that it's as long as you have those type of things, it's not going to happen. But you can't say those numbers are just skewed on those, but they are. I'm sure there's a majority of them. But you can't be 12% of the population commit 70% of all crimes in this country, and that's not scaled. That's fact. You can't, and you can't sit there and say that a cop who is black, white, Spanish, or female or whatever, walking up to a car in a community that's known for high crime cannot be nervous. Every cop should be nervous in every stop. I don't care if you're 110 years old driving your car. Yeah. A cop should be nervous.
And that's the point with the old man. You don't know if he's packing a little heat.
But he's old, so that's your excuse. I don't give a fuck.
He's still capable of going out with a bang.
Exactly. I've seen Gran Torino. Old men can fuck people up with guns.
He can be a martyr. He don't care. He's probably yo, I'm about to exit anyways.
Yeah. And sacrifice himself. And you're right. Yeah. So we don't know intentions. We don't know what the story is, but we're all going by video. Video used to mean everything, just the video.
They did just beat up a guy, and that was sad. This guy he even had a cane, dude. They just beat him up. I got the clip right here.
Who's they?
The cops. And, yeah, right in, what's SLC? Downtown SLC protest.
Salt Lake City?
Yeah. This poor guy. Yeah, Salt Lake City. Dude, this guy, they roughed him up. You want to see it?
No. Why do I want to see a guy with a cane get beat up?
Yeah, by the cops.
Okay. Can you show me where? Can you show me the videos of where the guys? Has been burning. Dude, don't play it. Where
beat this guy up.
Where the
sad.
Well, I mean, it's right. The cops shouldn't do it.
He wasn't even intruding in their space.
And that's fine. It's a cop thing. I get it. Right there. It's a cop thing. It's a bad whoever individual was at the time. But you also you can't sit there and pick and choose these stories because black people are doing it to other people with canes. White people are doing it to other people in wheelchairs. It's happening everywhere. So everybody's bad or not. That's it. Because you see videos out there of white kids or white people, being Antifa members, being mean to old vets and dumping water on them, throwing them to the ground and beating them up. I've seen those from last year during these rallies. Does that mean all white people are bad? Can we say that? When the protest first started, the woman in the wheelchair in Walmart who was being attacked and people trying to steal her shit, a black woman and black people trying to steal her shit. So she finally pulled out, a fucking knife to defend herself. Yeah. You know what I mean? So what if she sat there and goes, I was just victimized by people of my own race. I fucking hate my race. Would that be okay to say? Yeah. No, I hate those individuals and the looters to begin with. You know what I mean? So cops do that on literally a lower percentage that a white person, a black person, a Spanish person, an Asian person commit crimes against other people, and yet we hate all cops. Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where, like you said, the reform because it's a system thing in that sense that these people took what they learned and fucking abused the shit out of it.
Yeah, it needs to be an immediate reform.
And that badge cannot have that much power.
Yeah,
it can't. And that's where it comes in. We say that they legally should just be held accountable like any citizen.
They're only there because of the people. So yeah, they should come below the people.
Mm-mm. I don't think they should come below the people because they got to uphold.
They shouldn't be above the people.
I think they're there to uphold the law. If you're going to stop putting people on levels, then that's your problem. I don't put people at levels.
I also don't mind the idea of citizens on patrol.
I do. I think that's terrible. That makes no sense. After we just talked about reform, on trained police officers, now you want people who have no fucking clue what they're doing to be on patrol.
You have, say, an unarmed or maybe even minimally armed. Also, I don't want to say vigilante, but a community group as well that coexist with the police, but also police the police. So let the police do their thing, but if they find corruption in the police, they can initiate the investigation.
Dude, I think you're going down way too far down the rabbit hole on that one. They already have like and they tried it. Remember back in the 80s, they had like the neighborhood watch and all that stuff and whatever else. Obviously, it didn't work because it doesn't exist. And I think when you start doing that, it's again, you're giving power to people who definitely didn't earn it. And then that's where you become a problem. Because now you're saying you have a right that someone who's not in this group has. And that's where the abuse comes from. Because now you did the same thing to cops. You say you can only go this far. But you know what? That cop's going to be like, you know what? Fuck this. You know what? I'm a cop. Because now they're going to set their own rules in their own line. And you're going to do that with those people too. And that's where, again, it's a fight fire with fire thing. And that's where I think you have to find the people who want to fight against it to police them. You know, get the group of anti-cop people together. Be like, you know what? Form an administration. They're going to sit there and actually investigate when there's an incident. Like that guy who killed this Floyd guy and had the 18 or 12 to 18 complaints against him. They shouldn't have got past maybe 3 because I'm assuming 2 of them were wrong, okay?
Right.
You know, shouldn't have got that far. So you have somebody who's an anti-cop go, you know what the fuck is this problem? He's already up to 3 in less than, 8 months. All right, there's a problem here.
It's a big problem.
Exactly. So let's put him on leave, not paid, and we're going to figure this out. Yeah. That's what it should be done. Yeah, so I don't think you should have normal citizens as far as like community people do it, but you should have a job somewhere where this, that is run by ex-cops or whatever else, or because there are plenty of ex-cops who want to take down the bad cops. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can do it anonymously or whatever else as a consultant, hired as a consultant, however you want to do it. You know what I mean? That should do it.
Yeah.
Plus, it creates jobs.
Yeah. And rubber bullets creates jobs.
Yeah. And it keeps people alive. Well, maybe. Depends on when you get hit.
That's why I'm down.
Dude, imagine getting nut shotted with a rubber bullet.
I think you would try. Oh, you could.
Like, say your arms are up. You know what I mean? You're running, but last second you throw your arms up and spread your legs, and it goes right behind you and pegs your nut.
Yeah. You might hemorrhage, dude. I mean, that's a natural consequence.
Holy fuck. That would hurt. Yeah, I mean, obviously getting blown off with a bullet would suck, but I mean,
God bless that guy who passed away. They should have just let him go. That way, he lives and still gets arrested.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. But I think to wrap it up, I think my opinion on this is that racism's not going anywhere, at least anytime soon. You heard what John and I said about the cops and the reform. It definitely needs to be reformed. The education part of it and the actual execution part of it, with the lack of a better term. But the execution part of it has to be, looked at again, and how you take people down and arrest people, whatever it is you do. And there's plenty of fights out there, fighting styles out there. I'm sure someone can come up with something, and figure it out. And they
need to be trained on people with special needs.
Yes, I mean all that stuff. I mean that goes with the whole reform that we mentioned about being educated again. Yeah. I don't believe in white privilege. I think it's a lie. I think systematic racism exists on on a more individual thing than a system as a whole, which is what people seem to be throwing out there, that it's a thing on the whole. I don't. I think it comes down to one system or another, maybe, but if you look up the definition and the use of the original term of systemic racism, it's all based off of small little things like, you can't live here and you can't live there. Well, that's not the truth, because, black people can buy a house in this neighborhood just as much as another one. Great, you're going to bring up the banks and all that shit. Well, you know what? How's their credit? We can break this down forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, mm-hmm. And I think that racism on a whole is an everybody issue, and I don't think it's pure racism, even the slightest. I really don't. Because I don't see lynchings. I don't see people. Okay, fine. It happened yesterday. Someone was found hanging from a tree. It was. I don't know the story behind it, so I'm not even going to go there. Okay, it's terrible. It's legally every race has every right to do anything. And everything comes down to individual choices. You choose to be racist because you don't choose to educate yourself and learn what other cultures are like. You choose to be oppressed. All right? You are not a millionaire and oppressed. I'm sorry. That's not how the world works. Okay? You have the choices.
There are plenty of examples out there that you could find if you decide to read a book or do a little research and find out about whoever it is that you look up to in your skin color or whatever else that has done well in their life. If I've always believed this, if it's been done before, it can be done again, whether I did it myself or someone else has done it. It's just a matter of figuring it out. Okay? Stop making up excuses and hold yourself accountable. The Democrats want us conservatives to hold ourselves accountable until shit like this happens, and now nobody has to hold themselves accountable. Okay? Stop looking up the criminals and cocksuckers. All right? Start thinking for yourself is what you need to do. You got to clean up your own act and figure out yourself. And there's a lot of self-searching. Look at the world around you and tell, do you like it or not? If you don't like it, get yourself out of it. In basic speaking terms, it's as simple as that. In execution, it's terrible, it's hard, and God forbid you fight for something that you want to do. And move yourself out. You, yourself, fought to get yourself out of the neighborhood we were speaking out earlier. Yeah. Granted, you needed assistance, but you know what? You assist back now. So you guys got yourself out of that situation. You don't live in a neighborhood where the cops come down and get mad at you for parking the wrong way or whatever else. So you did something about it because for your family, for yourself. It's possible. It has nothing to do with because you're white or Italian or whatever you want to call yourself, or Jamaican. It has nothing to do with that. And I think people need to stop separating themselves and ask for equality and be treated the same. You can't do that if you yourself are looking at yourself as a color.
I try to push that all the time.
Yeah. You've been fine. I still don't understand where we talked about this before, where people think you're racist and not. I say more racist things than you, by definition.
Want to hear their truth.
Yes, and if you really, really want to experience true racism, honestly, continue. There's a small faction of people out there. This is on the black side and the white side. You see right now. If you want to see what true racism is, be that white person who kneels to a black guy asking you to do that. That's racism on both sides. Because you, as a white person, looking down at yourself, saying something bad about you yourself as a race, and that black person, themselves, are saying the exact same thing. They're saying that me as an individual can't do anything right, and that me as a certain race does something wrong. That's stupid.
I could say
it's stupid, because but you're asking to be treated equal. No. Because whatever happened 200 years ago has nothing to do with you now. I'm sorry to break it to you, but it has nothing. All of us need to stop living in the past. And if you want to get rid of statues, then fine. But you cannot erase the history of things. You can sit there and use excuses and say, well, in the past, this is what they did and this is what they did. But you know what? The laws were different in the past. In the past, you could stone people in public. You could hang people. You could beat your wife. You could do a lot of shitty things. You could molest little boys, and it was fine. So a lot of things have changed. So why don't we live in the now? And like you said earlier, we have to adjust. Like when we talk about the statues, adjust. Stop fucking talking about the past. It doesn't mean shit anymore. We are so far away from that now, and they all should have learned that when there was the first black president, how far away we are from everything. And it literally just started back in 1968. So legal-wise, we aren't that far away from the legal things. But you know what? There was still black people and white people getting married, maybe not legally, but they're still making kids. Ask any black person with the last name Jackson where that name came from, So it's happened, and it's there. It's just a slow go process. It's not going to change overnight, folks. It's not. We grew up in the 90s where integration musically and culturally started getting together. Just because we appreciate a culture's way of doing things doesn't mean we don't think their lives matter now. We just like their culture. We like everybody. No one's saying bad things, If people say bad things about you, it's because somehow you as that person or that group of people, if you're a looter, you earned it for that moment. But we're not sticking it to you for that race. You taking it that way is your choice because you took it. I put it out there and you took it that way. And that's your fault.
I see a lot of the white kids doing all the violent things, to tell you the truth.
Oh, they are. And I'm not saying it's a black or white thing. Yeah. I'm just saying it's a thing, regardless of what you did.
That's why I say they're ruining their mission.
They're not ruining their mission. This is their mission, to stir. It's as simple as that. We're going to stir. We're going to cause us to have a podcast about it. We're going to cause the media to talk about it and put it in their own words. That's their mission, and it's fine. Cause chaos. Chaos is the mission. It doesn't matter how it happens. It just matters that it happens. And we're feeding into it. We are. Mm-hmm. And as long as this keeps going on and people don't come up with a solution, it will never end. And the solution isn't something, like you said, that's going to happen tomorrow, because you're still going to pass regulations. You're still going to get through to the right people. It's still going to be passed if it's a legal thing. But until then, folks, we all need to do as people is get together regardless and pretend that we're all blind. And if you want to go into a social experiment, get every race together that you've never met, put blindfolds on, shut the fucking lights off, and have a conversation. And then you can learn about those groups and those cultures and those other things, and learn not to judge people if you really want to do it. If that's the part as extreme as it really needs to get.
You know what I would do? I would get like maybe an Armenian girl who has an accent that could sound Arabic. Put her in there. Get like a black guy with an English accent. You know, like, so I'm throwing people off.
Yeah, you know, because people can't judge.
Blindfolded conversations.
Yeah, and it like that's probably as extreme as you got to get. But if you really want to sit there and you want to end racism, I'm air quoting that because I don't necessarily think it's going to end anytime soon, at least not while I'm alive, is you just need to talk to people. We need to educate people, and it starts small, and it starts as a community. Start in your neighborhood. Start in your school. Start in whatever yoga club you're in. Start anywhere. Just chit chat about it. Even if you like the people already, you're not judging people. You're not racist. Still have the conversation with them. I do it. Yeah. I made sure while this is going on, I talked to every person of every race I could think of just to get their perspective on it.
Me too.
You know? Yeah.
Some people don't like having these conversations.
No, a lot of people don't. But you know what? It needs to be done.
Yeah.
It does. You can't sit there and be outraged about something and not make the attempt to educate yourself about it on either end, whether you're going to like the outcome or not. You're going to, as a person, need to understand not everybody in the world agrees with you at all. You know, not everybody's going to agree with me here, and that's fine. You know, but if you're going to judge me on that and not respect me for it, then that's your fault. You know what I mean? I've disliked people for certain things they say, but I've never defriended anybody. I think I came the closest, recently, with it, having the conversations about certain things, but it's ridiculous. I just changed my perspective on how I looked at the person more than anything, because I thought, because he kept going and going, I realized I really felt that. And I'm like, I don't want to be associated with somebody who feels that way. Mm-hmm. That's just me. Yeah. I don't believe in it as wholeheartedly as you do, so I don't need to be associated that way to the point where you're chanting it and loving it and whatever else. No, sorry. It's company you keep again. Does it take away how great of a person you were in our conversations prior? Absolutely not. But change my perspective on things. But if we can sit there and just learn about a culture, take the opportunity to travel and see what it's like. Even if you're traveling just out of state to a different part, like we're here, go to the North End, go to Chinatown, go chat with these people. Seriously, just chat with them. And one thing I'll give this generation is they're very open-minded to doing those type of discovery things, and they are. But we as adults need to do the exact same thing and bring our kids along. In those type of things. Whether we might not be looking to change ourselves, but we all need a refresher. We do. I constantly need refreshers, so I go away. And I meet people along the way, and I refresh my social skills, and I refresh my ability to associate with certain people, who might have a different lifestyle as myself, because I need to be reminded, And we, as people and as a whole, need to get together and do that. Not separate ourselves. Again, stop with the names. Stop with the titles. Stop with that. Just be people. Yeah. That's it.
100%.
And it can be fixed. Is it going to be perfect? They'll never be perfect in everybody's eyes.
What's it, 2032 or 2030? It's the secret agenda. There's always secret agendas.
Always. That's always going to be a thing, But as far as what we can do to better our own lives, stop trying to fix everybody's lives at once. Fix your own life and the people you love. And that's it. And that's the start of it. And imagine if we all did that on a global scale or even just a nationwide scale. Imagine. So, I really just want to end on that rant.
So and is the podcast back for right now?
Yeah, we'll be back if you want to keep showing up. Stop giving me 45 different times when you're going to.
We're going to be blazing it up.
All right, folks, thank you for the 3 hours of your time.
3 hours?
Yeah.
Good Lord, that was a good conversation.
So, the dog's going to eat. I'm going to take the dogs out.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It might take a couple days, but we appreciate it. We'll be back to our normal broadcasting soon, hopefully next week. But if not, a week after that. And until then, thanks again. Stay safe, be smart, educate, and just love everybody, whether you agree with them or not.
In the words of the great Flint, Michigan Tropics owner and point guard, Jackie Moon, everybody love everybody.
Amen.
Amen.